It's been insane.
Cool. You guys cover ADP. I got draft positions and depth charts pulled up. So.
Oh, even better. It's like we've done this before.
We're kind of prepped for this show.
What the fuck are we doing prepping ourselves?
There's no show sheet either.
I blame Ryan.
Yeah, because I go to Dan. I'm like, are we still doing this tonight?
Oh, yeah. There's a show sheet. I just wrote it in Notepad 10 minutes before the show started.
We don't need show sheets.
We don't do them. We don't do them most of the time anymore. I mean,
No.
if a guest asks for one, we will, but we don't do them most of the time anymore. Since
No, it's the best way to go.
So, here we go. And welcome to Beer Field, where we don't need no stinking show sheets. And we're back. It is another episode in, I guess, what is season 6. So we just got through our 6th NFL draft as a podcast. That's 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20. Yeah, 6. Draft as a podcast, which seems kind of surreal. Dan, you're back.
I'm here. I mean, I'm back.
Physically.
I mean,
you never left.
I would say I never really left. But yeah, I'm here. I'm excited. This is I think this might be my new favorite episode of the year. It's the post-draft. Yeah. Where we all get to argue back and forth about things that won't matter in 4 months, but
still
we start getting actual answers.
If I ever went back and listened to our stuff, I should go back and listen to the last few years post-draft episodes just to see how those went. But
oh man,
I'll digress.
Probably pretty fun.
We are presented by the Faceoff Sports Network, and the reason we're with the Faceoff Sports Network is here with us today. We've been using his rookie ADP all draft season to talk about these guys anytime we needed to reference it. Ryan Miner, welcome back.
What's going on?
Longtime friend of the show.
Oh, yeah. Can't believe it's been 6 years already that you guys started. It feels like
it's
yesterday.
Fucking nuts, man. I can't believe it either.
Me either.
Seems like yesterday you guys just did your first podcast.
I know.
I miss Nick. I miss monotone Nick.
I think secretly he misses it too.
I think once he's done with school,
he'll come back.
I've asked him enough times, but spaced out enough to where I just always have the bug planted in the back of its head.
Yeah,
he can't escape us. He won't escape us. I won't let him to.
He wants to come back.
He does.
I know he wants to come back. All right, as you can imagine, it's after the draft, so we were talking the NFL draft. We're going to go through full recap, kind of position by position, but not everyone because that would take way too long. So, got a draft recap, get you all reset for Dynasty, look at situations, look at draft capital, see how some of these guys adjusted post-draft. But before we do that, we have beer.
What's fueling Beer Field?
Dan, why don't you go ahead?
I am drinking something that is so fresh that we canned it. It would be 8 hours ago. We canned it at noon today. Brand new. We'll hit the distribution market next week for Illinois. Ryan, you'll probably see yours end of the month, and that is Distill's Deadhead IPA. This is their West Coast. This is their clean, balanced, slightly hop forward, all sorts of goodness. I'm so fucking pumped. But yeah.
Distill on for the 20th time this year.
That's right. It's like someone works for him. God damn it.
He's not even trying anymore. He's just grabbing the free samples.
As I'm wearing a white oak hat.
He's not even
wearing my Distill shirt.
Ryan, you drinking anything?
I am. I'm drinking an Old Nation M43.
Attaboy.
It's about as common as me drinking Distill, Ryan drinking Old Nation.
Yeah, drinking a Michigan beer and you're drinking Illinois beer.
Well, I guess
I love Old Nation. I love M43.
I'm drinking Southern Illinois beer. So,
your house beer?
No, I've got Stubborn German's alt beer.
Oh,
Stubborn
that's
German
so
Brewing
good.
Company out of Waterloo, Illinois. If you're ever in the St. Louis area, make the quick trip over. Great bourbon selection, great beer selection. And Chris will, the proprietor of the Stubborn German Brewing Company, who hopefully got his geezer fixed, will probably be on the show at some point this summer. So they also have a podcast, Stubborn German Podcast. It's a good listen. You should check it out. Kevin Ostie is the host of that show. He used to do some things for, I think, like Hot Rod TV and stuff. So they actually have a real voice that talks instead of just, me. Anyway, alt beer, cold conditioned, top fermenting beer. That's what makes it an alt beer. So out of Dusseldorf. So instead of bottom fermenting lager yeast, the old way of doing it was top fermenting lager yeast, ergo alt. So full review about halfway through the show. I apologize in advance for what I'm about to do because I have no idea what this drop is, but we're going to use it anyway.
Draft recap.
That actually was not bad.
That was fucking weird, man. I do not remember that one like, at all.
I think we used it one time.
That was like, are we on acid now? Like, are we up the drops?
We're that type of show now.
Here we go.
We are that type of show now. All right, 2022 NFL Draft was last week. Lot of storylines throughout. A lot of things. Hey, an appearance from a child. lot of storylines throughout. YouTube. Beerfield podcast to see what the
Ryan has no clue.
hell we're talking about. He has no idea.
That someone's right behind me.
He was.
He was.
Yep.
And then
He's
the other
"Can I come
one.
on the podcast?
Yep. Over your other shoulder. Yep. On the
Oh,
steps.
yeah.
Another guy.
Like, that's so funny. They don't think I hear him coming down the stairs. I'm here like, doo, 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 doo. Like, you can't sneak on around the house. I hear you coming.
It's got them dad ears. He knows,
Yeah.
he knows where everyone is.
Yeah. When you have a 13, a 10, and an 8-year-old, it's kind of hard to get away with things.
It's true. All right. We're going to start off with the quarterbacks. So quarterbacks are a storyline throughout the draft. Fewest quarterbacks taken in the first 2 rounds in a long time.
Since 2000.
Yeah. And your first quarterback didn't go till pick 20. Nobody else went until round 3. Last quarterback to go that low, I think, was 2016.
I think so.
I think it was
2016. That was in the EJ Manuel one, because he was like 15 or something.
Yeah, so last time you got out of the top 10 picks. So that's already not a good sign. But, on the quarterback front, first we got to talk Kenny Pickett, because Kenny Pickett's the one guy that did get first-round draft capital, even with the hand size. And he did not land in an immediate starting role with Mitch Trubisky there. I think it'll probably be an open competition. But even he, of first-round draft capital, did not get an immediate starting job.
No, I fully expect them to take by about week 3 or 4. I mean, they play in arguably the toughest division in football. Them or the AFC West. I may not agree with the pick, but it doesn't matter. When Pickett starts, and he will. I mean, he's got one of the better groupings of a positional skill player. So he's going to be probably at least a QB2 in most weeks. He's a good super flex QB2, and the only quarterback probably worth being taken in the first round in super flex rookie drafts right now. I've seen a lot of Malik Willis, which is, I'm sorry guys, that's you're just hurting yourself there. That there's only one quarterback worth being taken in the first.
Yeah, and so I guess my question is this, right? We know that nobody's starting immediately. We don't know that. I mean, I guess Trubisky could completely suck and Pickett does start immediately. But in general, I'm pretty certain that nobody's, outside of surprises, nobody's starting immediately. So, I mean, Willis lands behind Tannehill, Corral behind
Darnold,
right? Ritter behind Mariota, and Pickett behind Trubisky. And I mean, immediately what you've got in that grouping even though there's 2 rounds separating them, is you've got 3 guys that are starting behind guys that are pretty much on their last breath is NFL starters, particularly Ritter and Pickett, who are both behind guys that are, guys that were seen as plus backups last year, that we tabbed going into the offseason as we'd like to see them get a chance to start, who are now likely going to get one more shot at being an NFL starter or a bridge quarterback before these other guys take over. So what does make Pickett worthy of that first round but not Willis, given the fact that Willis had such a higher perceived upside? Is it just the draft capital? And Ryan, do you agree that Willis isn't? Ryan, do you agree that Willis is not worth a first round pick?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would never touch him as a first round pick. I'd be more likely mid-second at best with him, depending on how the whole draft falls. I mean, even right now with Pickett and Superflex, he's even going at the end of the first, sometimes the beginning of the second. Like the running backs and the receivers are going first. But I mean, for Pickett to start this year, I don't see it really being 3 to 4 games because history tells you with the way Pittsburgh's been playing, the last time they had a losing season was 2003. And that was right before they drafted Big Ben. So if you think about it, if they're really going to lose again, I think we won't see Pickett till week 10. Based on if they're already kind of pushing out of the playoffs, which it possibly could be happening even sooner, as soon as week 8.
Do we have schedules up? I know that I've seen some of the European game schedule. We don't have actual schedules announced yet, right?
No.
Because the best thing to look for is when it's Pittsburgh's bye week, or look for a stretch of games. The reason why I think he'll start earlier is that Pittsburgh's team is just, I know the defense is good, and maybe Cleveland gets off to a slow start because we don't know what Watson's suspension is going to look like, but that division is so fucking tough, and that conference is so fucking tough that it's hard to see Pittsburgh,
but you're making an unsafe assumption there too, which is that Pittsburgh's going to be bad, so bad that they feel like they need to make a change at quarterback. And look, Trubisky's taken, I know this probably better than anybody. Trubisky, handcuffed by Nagy's offense, looked good in spurts and took 2 Bears teams to the playoffs under Matt Nagy, and now you put in an offense with weapons, with a defense that's probably equally good to what he had then, or at least close to it. You put in an offense that has weapons, and you give him a back like Najee Harris. There's no guarantee that Trubisky's bad enough to justify a change, even if Pittsburgh's, chasing.
Sure, which I think it's baked into, Pickett's perceived value, especially his ADP, where the NFL told us to punt to QBs, and we're starting to see that show up in the rookie ADPs. I've seen Pickett go as high as 102, 103. And as Ryan said, he's going as low as, at the top of the second. So maybe he does, maybe Trubisky does, play a full season, or at least plays, the majority of the season, and, Pickett gets to start in 2023. I think a lot of that's already baked into where you're getting them in your rookie drafts. If we knew that Pickett was going to play week 1, I don't think he would be going late first.
That's also true, and I think there's no debate that where Pickett's going is fine. I think the one thing I'm debating is does he start week 1? I kind of agree he'll start at some point, because even if Trubisky plays well, right, the Steelers obviously saw enough in Pickett to make him a first-round pick. So, I don't think Trubisky's going to hang out long-term. He's on a 2-year deal. They don't really have an out on him, but if they need to make a change and have him back up for a year, they could do it. And if he plays well, he's only going to be 30 years old. He could be in line for a better deal elsewhere. I just don't know that taking draft capital out of the equation, which I know you can't do, that you can really say that Pickett's situation is a ton better than Malik Willis's, especially given that a lot of people perceive that Willis had the same upside. You betting on, let me ask this.
You're betting on historic trends of third-round quarterbacks. Willis is like bottoming out is he never plays
takes
a
a starter snap. Yeah.
And that's why you can't take him in the first round. And Ryan's right? That's why you have to start looking at him maybe around mid to late second. His upside doesn't change. I think we all can agree with that.
Doesn't change at all.
Not at all. But now his bottoming out is D.D. Westbrook way back in the episode 4 callback is fucking floor. It's bottoming.
The bottom out for D.D. Westbrook was dead. So,
I know. I don't want to say as much, but it's not. It's more than likely that Willis plays maybe a handful of games if we're lucky.
I don't think he plays at all. I mean, you saw Ryan Tannehill; he's not going to mentor him. So,
I mean, shit. I mean,
Willis,
if he plays well enough, like he did 2 years ago, he gets a contract extension, and Willis is
okay.
Maybe Kellen Mond. I don't know.
Well. Speaking of Kellen Mond, that's a good transition. The guy that actually went ahead of Willis, because Willis was not the second quarterback off the board even, that is in a very similar situation to Kenny Pickett. You've got I think Mariota also got a 2-year deal. So you got twin 2-year deals behind 2 quarterbacks that are both set up on last chance type of deals with Mariota and Trubisky. I mean, the situations that Pickett and Ritter are in are only differentiated by the fact that Trubisky/Pickett in Pittsburgh have a lot more weapons. So what do you make of Ritter? One being, I mean, his 3rd-round pick. I think all 3 3rd-round picks are definitely project pieces to a degree. But what do you make of Ritter landing in a very similar situation to what Kenny Pickett did and also being the second quarterback off the board by 12 picks?
Ryan, go ahead into this one.
I was actually surprised he was actually second quarterback taken because I was always thinking like Willis was like the drop of Willis was going to stop. I was like, oh, here it is, and then everyone just kept passing and passing. I'm like, when's this going to stop? And I'm like, oh, here it is, and then it ended up being Ritter, and I'm like, well, all right, well, you got Drake London now, you got Kyle Pitts, you got 2 tall like red zone weapons, and you got Desmond Ritter who's got a cannon of an arm actually. If you watch like a few of his highlight tapes, like Alec Pierce, was it Alec Pierce? Yeah, Alec Pierce. Yeah. I'm trying to think Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And, he's got that deep ball throw. Like, if he could just, get that offensive line, which they also built up a little bit also, I think Ritter actually could be one of the best quarterbacks of this draft class. I mean, it's not really saying much, but could actually be the number 2 overall for the rookie running back or for the rookie quarterbacks.
I mean, I see it. I mean, I think he has the same amount of chances as Matt Corral and as, Malik Willis, even Sam Howell, because all these quarterbacks above these guys could easily, fall flat. I won't say easily because I don't expect Tannehill too, but, Atlanta has probably the worst roster in the NFL. I mean, they play in probably the easiest division. So if they get off to some 1 or 2 game head start, sure, then maybe he stays longer. I think Ritter gets his chance at some point this year, and he's super athletic. Like he's a lot more athletic than I think people want to give him credit for, and I think he's more methodical with his thought process and going through his progress. Where he's going to be maybe Alex Smith light, right? Where he's game managing and then taking off and running and getting his rushing yards that way. Probably not super upside, but he has 2 targets to throw to that are beastly. Like that's his job, and then you check it down to Patterson. Yeah. That boom, like not sexy. QB2 fine. He'll probably get replaced next year though, sadly, because Atlanta's bad and they're gonna have a top 3 to 5 pick and a lot better class. So I'm probably avoiding Ritter because it's hard for me to see Atlanta not take a quarterback next year. With them only taking a 3rd rounder this year, it's hard for me to see that unless they win more games than expected.
Or Russell Wilson's this then. But
or he does that and great for Atlanta, right? They found the diamond in a field of shit. So
and I don't think he's that. They do have an out on Mariota after next year too. Ritter is we got to do something. Let's spend a 3rd round pick, take a flyer on a guy who you can argue is right in this tier of quarterbacks behind Pickett as far as being NFL ready, and let's see what we get. He's athletic, he's got a lot of synergies to Mariota, so he's going to be in a good situation to learn from from a veteran. Mariota hasn't come out and said anything about not mentoring people. So
he's playing for a next bridge job next year.
Right. So that'll be interesting to watch. I do like Ritter, and I think so. Did he surpass Willis as the two in this class to anybody, or are they just tiered up together?
They're all tiered up. I mean, that's me personally.
Up.
They're all tiered up. I'd still probably take Willis because I'm shooting for upside. Like, I don't think any of these guys has an actual shot at playing multiple years. So
right,
shoot for upside with Willis, and then Ritter because obviously he's just as athletic. But
yeah, and I've got them tiered together. All right, Matt Corral, also third-round pick, lands in Carolina. It's a different situation, but also a situation where you got to figure Darnold's on his last breath. Corral also has a lot of development opportunity. To me, the difference between him and Ritter is that Ritter at least looked polished and might just be like topped out as far as where he goes as a passer. Malik Willis is not anywhere near topped out. He's raw, but you can see that he's raw and could very easily grow into this kind of really good role. Whereas I watch Corral and I'm just like, there's holes in his game, and I don't know that there's holes in his game that you can necessarily fix because they seem to be more almost mental than anything. I mean, you can try to fix the mechanics and the fact that he has accuracy issues, but to me, it's just doesn't process the field that well, doesn't see the field that well. I'm not a Matt Corral fan, but the landing spot to me has to have him in the same conversation as guys like Willis and Ritter, but maybe kind of in a tier of his own below those two, just because I don't believe in the ability quite as much.
You and I joked about this during the actual draft. Like, is he worse than Darnold? Maybe. Is he better than Darnold? Maybe. Do we think Darnold sucks and will get benched at some point this year?
Probably.
Absolutely.
Fire.
But he'll come in and play 3-4 games, maybe the whole season. Maybe he's Davis Mills. Maybe he sucks, and Carolina's taking a quarterback next year. Like, it's the same thing with Ritter, except I trust Carolina's defense probably more to keep him in games because of still how bad that division is, and I think the 7th wild card spot's up for grabs. So
I like Corral a lot, like watching like his tape and stuff, but like noticing like how good he was. Like, yeah, he could run the ball anytime. Like, he had that run and go pass and just tuck it and run.
Yep.
But a lot of things I've noticed too, like as a flaw, was his eyes lead the defense too easily. Mm-hmm. So the defense knows how it can like shift when he's passing. Like, he's looking for that wide open receiver.
He stares him down.
He's like, yeah, he stares him right down. So he's looking right down the line at him. And so it's like, all right, so then you see the safeties and linebackers start shifting that way, and that's when he gets picked or, knocked off the pass.
I do like him a little bit more for DJ Moore because he's more willing to take the deep shots. But it's also Carolina has to drum up the right plays to do that. I fucking trust them. So
yeah,
that just makes my DJ Moore, all my DJ Moore shares even more sad because of it.
Yeah, and
is it sad for DJ Moore if he's the only receiver with back-to-back 1,100 yards and 5 touchdowns? No one else has that kind of stat line right now.
He's so good. There's so many bad quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I think that outside of Pickett, who's back of the first, that you don't. And those other 3 guys are kind of just clumped up. You got to draft what you believe the upside is, which is why Willis is 2, and then probably there with Ritter because of the rushing floor, and then Corral. They're all definitely not guys you go out and spend first-round picks on in your rookie draft. You spend,
and I've seen it so far. I've seen Malik Willis go the back into the first.
Yeah, you spend.
And I'm just like, why?
To early third. And the other guy that's in that conversation from a situational standpoint is Sam Howell. Sam Howell's a guy a lot of people had as a quarterback 1 before the college season started. A lot of people a lot of film people, even some stats people, I think, kind of liked what he was able to put together. I mean, you kind of saw journeyman there, somebody that could be passable. And he lands in Washington behind Carson Wentz, who can't lock up a job anywhere. So, again, not unlike everybody else, is he the surefire starter or the long-term answer? No. but is there a possibility that he is, especially given Wentz's health struggles? Yeah, but
He'll get a chance.
they also still have Taylor
Absolutely.
Heineke too, though, right? And that's I believe anyway, and that's
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yep,
check
they
that.
do.
And that's the flip side, right? Hal could be anywhere from starting to third string, depending on how his training.
He
goes.
could get. He's a 5th round pick.
He could get cut.
He could get cut.
He could end up on a practice squad.
Practice squad. Like
Yeah.
that's so. Like I can't believe it. I've seen people that like I respect their takes had him as their QB1. It's just the NFL took a shit on this quarterback class,
They did.
and I'm here for it. Like
Yeah.
every Seattle pick, every Tennessee pick, I'm like, here goes Willis, here goes Ritter, here goes Corral, and they're like, no, I want to take fucking running backs and middle linebackers and shit like that. Nope, don't want them.
And
I'll wait till next year when it's better.
Yep, and I think the landing spot's the only thing that still makes Sam Howell draftable in Superflex,
Yeah.
but it's like 4th round draftable
Yeah.
because
Yep.
of the
Into
draft
3rd,
capital.
4th, yeah. Yep, I agree.
Because
The Dartthrower area.
yeah, the situation's there, and set up for him to potentially end up as a starter and playing meaningful snaps and being able to, have some QB2 weeks. But the downside is he's on a practice squad. He's also, if you're going to stash if you have taxi squads, if you're going to stash a quarterback there,
Good call.
that's really all 4 of those guys we just talked about are options. The only other guy with any meaningful draft capital was Bailey Zappi. He was actually a 4th round pick between Corral and Howell.
That's crazy to me. He went ahead of Howell.
And he went to the Patriots. So, Zappi to me is a backup, right? Unless the floor falls out for Mac Jones, he's a backup, and he was drafted to be a backup, and he was drafted to be depth, and the Patriots know that, if something happens to Mac Jones, you don't really have to change the offense for Zappi to come in and play, and Hoyer is 90 now, so, Zappi purely drafted to be a backup. So,
Yeah. You don't need the
like
draft
college
in your
football.
rookie drafts.
no.
Plays like college football and touchdowns too, passing touchdowns and passing yards for
yeah.
Washington. Or
Did he
Western
break the
Kentucky.
record?
was
Did he
Western
beat Burrow's
Kentucky.
yards record too?
He was in a Western Kentucky air raid offense, and he might have, but
I think he did beat Burrow's yardage record.
the problem is he didn't land outside of an injury to Mac Jones, he didn't really land in a spot to pull a Gardner Minshew on this one. So
I think if you're taking Billy or Zappi, I think you're hoping for like Case Keenum, maybe
later
a guy
on,
that
yeah.
can be a true journeyman. Maybe Jones gets hurt for a few games and he pulls a Garoppolo and they win a few with him and they flip him for a second because it's the Patriots.
because he looks good. Yeah,
Yeah, he looks great in shorts.
His 1-year career was great there. I mean, he had 686 attempts, 475 completions, 5,967 passing yards, 62 touchdowns,
That's
Yeah.
fucking
11
62 touchdowns. Is nuts.
and
man.
11 interceptions.
the
So
guy,
he was
fucking-
very accurate.
the guy,
That's-
the
that's
guy
elite.
produced. Yeah,
That's elite there, boys.
and
I want him 101. Let's go.
I wish he had
that's-
landed
that's-
somewhere that had quarterback question marks instead of just spent a 1st rounder on one last year.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, unless Belichick's been playing Madden a lot, those are Madden numbers right there.
That's right.
Right.
Create a player on your on your college roster that you import over to Madden.
All right, anything else on quarterbacks?
No, the rest of that class is kind of
Gross.
yeah,
It's all gross.
that's a nice way to say it.
All right, let's flip over to the running backs and your top 2, the guys that are being debated as the RB1 are Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. So, obviously, Breece Hall landed with the Jets. Michael Carter was the incumbent. Kenneth Walker lands with the Seahawks, where you have Rashad Penny and Chris Carson as your incumbents. So, I guess we break it down from here, right?
Who do you want to start with?
I want to start with Breece Hall.
Okay.
All right.
Because I think Breece Hall is the 101.
Yeah.
I agree with the generational talent take. He showed more as a receiver. Michael Carter, we had been pounding the table of you need to get someone else in here, and this feels a lot like a Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines situation where Carter can play a Nyheim Hines type role if he needs to, and that caps Hall's passing upside a little bit, but doesn't take it away entirely. Could still be a 40, 50 target a year guy. And, I think is going to be extremely talented as a runner. Do I fault people that have Kenneth Walker ahead of him? No, especially not in Seattle under this regime that traditionally likes to run more than they like to pass, and you're probably going to see a return to that with Drew Lock under center. But overall, I think the talent of Breece Hall, to me, just especially as a receiver, just edges out Kenneth Walker, especially in Seattle's offense at the moment, despite the volume Walker should see.
It's Hall easily. When we get to Walker, I'll be honest with you guys. Spoiler: I don't like the Seattle landing spot at all. So, but we can talk about that when we get to him. I don't think anyone's mad that he went to the Jets, right? I don't think anyone's upset because he should have a role. Obviously, just like Hopper said, he should see. He should still get the volume. Zach Wilson didn't really target running backs. That's probably the only concern. And now you add Garrett Wilson to that too. You have two wide receivers that can operate in all three quadrants of the field, and guys that they can kind of get gadgety with. So there might be some competition alongside Michael Carter for those, for some of those running back targets. But if the Jets are supposed to take the jump that people expect them to, Breece Hall is going to be a big part of that. It might be a Joe Mixon situation for him though. It might be, a slow start, because the offense is still trying to figure his shit out. If Zach Wilson doesn't pan out, then you have to kind of go through your lumps the way that Joe Mixon did prior to Burrow, joining that team. But I think I don't fault people for wanting to take wide receiver over him at the 101. I wouldn't personally because of position scarcity and running backs are so important, and because the quarterback class is so bad, and we're starting to see a lot of those top 10 running backs dynasty age themselves out. That I'm so confident and bullish on Hall, but it might be kind of a slowish start for him in 22, but he's still just 20 years old. He's got a lot of time to still hit his prime years. So
one thing on your doesn't target running backs take, Jets running backs Michael Carter and Ty Johnson 110 targets last year between the two.
Yeah, only two running backs. Only 2 games with Zach Wilson had any running back gone over 5 targets, and that was Ty Johnson just twice. And that was, it's great because they have, Joe Flacco and those guys. And Michael Carter's best game came with Joe Flacco. I think it was Joe Flacco or Joe Johnson, whoever.
It was Mike White.
Or I'm sorry, yeah, Mike White. So, unless Wilson gets hurt, but we'll see.
Let's put it. Only an individual.
There's upside. There's upside to his change.
If you shift most of that or a lot of that Hall's way, I'm just spitballing here. Right?
That's the hope, right?
Your total running back targets, is probably in that 6 to 7 a game when you look at the combination of Johnson and Carter.
True.
So
that's true. Yeah.
Instead of just the individuals, because they were in pretty much they were even 50-50 on their target volume for the year. So I don't think you can look at any one guy. I think you have to look at the totality of what happened with the backs.
You just hope that, I know with the Michael Carter truth out there, you just hope that it, like you said, that it is kind of a cold situation and JT and Hines can get their own, that maybe Carter and Hall can, but
what you hope is that Wilson takes another step and this team throws more.
Yeah.
You want some touchdown upside.
Yeah.
at the very least, get some touchdown upside.
Because they built this team to try to make Zach Wilson succeed.
Yeah.
So, the way it's going right now, with Breece Hall and Michael Carter, you actually have a really like 1-2 punch there.
You do.
Where before it was just Michael Carter, and then after that, you're kind of like, who's next?
Ty Johnson.
Ty Johnson.
Tevin Coleman.
Yeah, it was a need, and they just nailed it right then and there. Mm-hmm. So, we could even see, possibly even a Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon type situation where it's they might say it's a 50-50 split. And here we're all going to think it's going to be, 60-40, 70-30 as the season goes on. But no, it stayed 50-50. And this could possibly happen where
I hope not.
But Breece Hall could be the touchdown monster. Put him at the goal line, he's going in.
Yeah.
Well, and that throws some water on the upside really for both guys, because let's talk Walker. Dan, you said you don't like the Seattle landing spot, and I certainly see reasons to not like it as well. Should the volume be there? Sure, but then when you factor in the fact that the O-line is lackluster, you still have Rashad Penny and Chris Carson there, who have both been productive, especially Rashad Penny at the end of last year, then you all of a sudden are crowded.
and he doesn't catch passes.
And
he might. I get it. I get it. Film grinders. He looked great catching passes at combine. He caught some passes in high school. Historically, if you don't catch passes in college, if you're not targeted enough in terms of your offense, that doesn't transition very well into the NFL. Walker could. We know he's a great runner. Yeah. But you have the worst. You're going to have one of the worst offenses, one of the slowest offenses in football. You have a horrible coaching staff with very dated play calling that clearly wants to take off this year. I hate Walker for this year. I think he's going to get overdrafted, and especially in redraft. 2023 is where you hope that Seattle cuts ties with Pete Carroll, and they go after their quarterback of the future. They can hopefully retain, DK Metcalf, and the offense doesn't take too much of a dip, and you get to see some of that touchdown upside with Walker that he showed in college. But it's so hard to want to get in on him this year, and with him not having that pass catching skill set, it's like a lighter version of Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry, where we're always arguing, or Josh Jacobs, where we're always arguing, why aren't these guys more valuable? And it's because they don't get targeted and they have to hit their nut ceiling. I mean, Derrick Henry had a 2,000-yard ceiling and he wasn't the RB1 that year, at least in points per game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one, Dan. Like, I can see where you're coming from. Like, when you say, like, he wasn't much of a pass catcher, but then, like, I actually dug deeper into that, like, looked back at, like, his high school, and it was hard to find, like, anything high school related.
No, I know. It's super hard to find. It is.
Like, they'll give you, like, his stats, but then we'll give you, like, game-by-game log. And, like, he had 61 receptions over 3 seasons in high school. So, I mean, that's more than a standard high school running back in general.
And on film, he looked comfortable doing it. And I think that's the argument you see going both ways right now a lot, is that he looked comfortable as a pass catcher when he was asked to, but he wasn't asked to. So how's that going to translate, especially given the fact that Chris Carson is proven adept at that?
And these guys in Seattle didn't catch a lot of passes. And you have an insane quarterback change. You have one of the most efficient quarterbacks of our generation moving to
one of the most efficient quarterbacks of our generation.
Yes, absolutely. Drew Lock is a GOAT. And that it's great that he caught passes in high school. It's why did 2 separate offenses, especially Michigan State, who threw the football a fair amount, just not target the running back? Sure, but if Walker's supposed to be this good, why aren't you using him more? And that's always been my concern with these guys. It's not like Wisconsin, who just didn't throw the football a lot, or Boston College, with AJ Dillon. But when they did throw the football, those guys got 10% target share. It's and you're looking at Walker with his, I think it's like 5.4%, and it's like I don't know.
Are games where he ran plenty of routes, and they just never even looked his direction. He's open. They just never looked that direction.
I mean, maybe, right? Like, we're hoping for Melvin Gordon. All right. Maybe we're expecting Josh Jacobs on a worse offense, or maybe similar offense. And hopefully he's not, I don't know who else to be.
The thing that concerns me, though, is we know that this team is good with Carson, and Rashad Penny has first-round draft capital and just started to produce a bit and rehab some of that value. So, that's the other thing you got to pay attention to, especially early on.
Would you guys take Walker? Is he still your 102?
Yes. From a talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's a twist you can do with that. And, like, the twist is, all right, so, like, you nailed it, like, this year. This year, he would suck because of the loaded backfield. But we have to remember that Rashad Penny is only on a 1-year deal.
Yep.
Yes.
And then Chris Carson can probably be released.
I don't think he's going to play this year.
Yeah, that'd
be honest.
Well, that too, and with the neck issues, they could creep back up at any time. And then all of a sudden, he's alone. And you look at the situation they found themselves in down the stretch several times over the last few years because of how hard they ride their running backs.
Yeah. So, like,
he's my 104. I'll say that.
He could be the RB1 next year for the Seattle
Yeah.
Seahawks.
Oh, yeah,
and that's
easily.
perspective,
Then you just have to hope that the team improves.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
no, I think I know where Dan's going with that, and there's only a handful of other guys. One other guy that got second round draft capital that is going to have immediate opportunity. But when you start talking about next year, that's when you get into these guys like, potentially Rashad White or Brian Robinson or Zamir White, that this year figure to be first round handcuffs, and then figure to be handcuffs, and then next year, may have some of that path cleared out for them. Looking down the line, that's a good. Well, it's not the transition I wanted to make yet. We'll get into that in a minute, but it's okay. If you're looking at potential second year production, then I still got to rely on what I saw as far as talent goes, explosiveness goes, and the fact that you are playing roulette a little bit when you start looking at second year production because you don't necessarily know what that team is going to do or how they're going to value a player. I'm still got to lean Walker from a talent perspective, from a volume perspective, and the fact that he should see some work this year. And then the other guys that I would put ahead of him potentially aren't guaranteed work this year, and you don't know how things are going to go, next season. Is the team going to value them and say, all right, here's the keys, you're the guy, we'll bring in some other pieces around you? Or is it going to be a situation like, for example, Keyshawn Vaughn, who we thought was going to have a path cleared for him this year, and then it's not there because they re-signed Fournette, and they go out and draft Rashad White, who I'm sure is one of the guys you moved ahead. So
it's he's still the RB2, positional scarcity. This is why I would take Burks and London over him.
Oh,
I just trust.
You meant 102 overall.
Yes.
Oh,
he's the RB2 in this class.
I thought you meant RB2.
No, you're good.
No, I think that there's more room for debate as far as the overall number 2.
Absolutely, and I see why people want him so 102. Position scarcity. Everyone always wants a running back, and he's just 21 years old. He still has room to grow as well. It's not like I love Rashad White, and we talked about this, Hopper. He's 23. He'll be 24 by the end of this season, and Tom Brady may be gone. And that offense looks worse than Seattle. Well, so there's still question marks even beyond this season for a lot of these guys that we like.
And I agree, particularly with London, on particularly just with having a wide receiver there in general. Because if I'm a rebuilding team, wide receivers have a longer shelf life.
Yeah,
have more longevity. You're going to get more out of them at a running back. If you're a rebuilding team that drafts them, and you're in a 2-year rebuild, 3-year rebuild. Either you're hoping for them to hit enough for you to flip them and then replace them with as your other team members come along. I can certainly see the argument to punt that position scarcity and get somebody that's going to be a longer term piece, especially with some of the deals we've seen go down for guys like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase in Dynasty the last couple of years.
And teams just throwing the ball a little bit more. And I think teams are becoming a little more in tune to the positional value of running backs as a whole, which is why it's harder and harder to find running backs that go in the first round. Because let's be real, right? 10 years ago, Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker are locked in first round picks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And now they're barely second. Now teams are trading up to get them at the top of the second, or maybe they fall a little bit.
Well, the other thing is, just from a fantasy perspective, the bell cow back is becoming the elite tight end, where it's the exception rather than the norm. And having a bell cow back might, put you with the 3 or 4 other teams in the league that have that type of back as their RB1, but the other 8 teams in your league are doing what you're doing, and they're juggling those, tier 3 guys with your running back by committee guesses, essentially. And almost are being it. So the bell cow back is in a lot of ways the elite tight end of your league now.
And you want him when you see him. That's why we all want Breece Hall.
Yep. That's why everybody wanted Pitts.
Yeah. I think the biggest talking point is who's the RB3 for you guys right now?
Whew, that gets tough. It's
it's clumped up, right? It's got to be clumped up.
It does get clumped up, and I look at guys where I wanted to go next, not just RB3, was who are guys that can have an immediate impact. And the guys that I look at as I look at this list that could have an immediate impact or James Cook in Buffalo could have year one productivity. You look at Tyrion Davis-Price, who lands in San Francisco and seems to be a San Francisco back where, a lot of people weren't super high on him, and then they gave him third-round draft capital. And then Damian...
He'll start at some point.
Yeah. And then Damian Pierce with the Texans, and then Tyler Beatty with the Ravens are the other guys to look at, and I'm saying, all right, they could have value this year. And Beatty is not like the others. He was a sixth-round pick, but I loved his profile. I loved his draft profile, and he landed into a backfield that is very much a committee crapshoot going into the season. You can still believe in J.K. Dobbins or that Gus Edwards has more left in the tank or whatever, but Dobbins hasn't seen the field hardly in 2 years. And we know how much Baltimore runs. So those are the guys that I look at as having immediate value. As far as who the three is, if I had to put a name on it instead of a tier, it very well might be James Cook landing in Buffalo. And that's a complete tier jump for me, given the second round draft capital and the opportunity he finds himself in with two backs that have traditionally been lackluster, even though Singletary started to put it together.
Mine's still Rashad White.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's that, yes, there's risk in White. There's also risk in Cook, who's never asked or been called upon to be that bell call or that every down back. So give me the running back who's done it, who has the size, who has the athleticism, and he's literally one injury away. And I don't think Fournette's played a full 16 or 17 season in his career. And we know Brady's love of using Rashad White. I'm going to take that risk because after Walker, after Hall, it is just pick your poison.
And I do have them in the same tier as far as White.
They absolutely should be. I agree.
Could go, and then kind of a baby step down below that is where I have Pierce and Tyler Algier is another guy that actually could have immediate round one.
It's insane.
Value, and
Mike Davis gets cut.
Yeah,
like that was the name I was going to bring up with Tyler Algier. It's like, he was a fifth round pick. And it's like, how can you not say he's the number 3 back? Like, you look at the backs that were drafted, you can almost say there's 7 or 8 backs that could be RB3 right now.
Yeah.
And no one's going to say you're right or wrong because it's like, oh, yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah. Because Cook in Buffalo, Dan, you just mentioned some of the red flags there. He's never had a full season, so he could still be splitting. But at the same time, nobody has a stranglehold on that backfield. Cook was explosive, right, especially as a pass catcher. And you don't really need him to be explosive as a runner with Josh Allen. You can use him in RPO type situations. You mentioned Rashad White being an injury away. We'll get to some of those premium tier handcuffs next. Then you look at, Ryan, you just mentioned Tyler Algier.
Tyler Algier.
Yeah, who's a guy that I kind of had up in that. I had him up in kind of the third tier going in pre-draft. Who's a 5th round pick. He lands in Atlanta where nobody has a stranglehold on the backfield. Tyler Beatty lands at a running back by committee where nobody has a stranglehold on the backfield. Traditionally a backfield that struggled to stay healthy. And then who was the other one? Landed in Houston. Damian Pierce.
Damian Pierce.
Yeah. Damian Pierce is right there with Algier where, they signed Marlon Mack off the Achilles issue. But again, nobody else has a stranglehold. So I see Algier and Pierce kind of settling into a tier together. I'm still adjusting my rankings, but probably right behind where Rashad White is because of the upside and where James Cook is because of his situation is guys that, predominantly work between the tackles that landed in very good opportunity situations that could come in and kind of James Conner this thing.
Well, speaking of James Conner, too, you got to look at Keontae Ingram.
I love that spot for him, man. I love that.
I love that for him, too. And all right, let's talk handcuffs because we keep going there. So Keontae Ingram's a guy that lands in Arizona behind James Conner who can't stay healthy. they had to use him in split backfield work last year. And Ingram is adept as a pass catcher. He can work as a receiver and help take that load off of Connor. And you know that Arizona doesn't want to use Connor as an every down back because when Pittsburgh tried to do it, he couldn't stay healthy. So, yeah, there is some immediate work for Keontae Ingram there.
He'd be like the Chase Edmonds,
Yep.
And he should be able to beat out. I would think he can beat out Benjamin too for that.
He can.
For the RB2 spot. He's
bigger. Benjamin.
He's bigger than Benjamin. I mean, Benjamin might be more. Yeah. He might be more explosive, but I love Ingram's all-purpose skill set. I've been a big fan of him since his days at Texas. It's not his fault he had to transfer. It's not his fault that Bijan Robinson landed in his lap and was like, "I'm now your daddy."
Yep. We mentioned Rachaad White in Tampa being behind Fournette. He's about one injury away. Another guy that lands one injury away is at least the runner is Brian Robinson landing in Washington.
He should definitely beat out Jared Patterson.
Yeah.
I don't see him being a huge threat to who's it? Antonio Gibson right now.
He's not a threat to Gibson, just like I don't see White standalone being a threat to Fournette. White has a better chance to see the field, because of his pass catching ability.
White has weak winning upside. Just given, it's hard. I won't quit Rachaad White. I've already taken Rachaad White in rookie drafts. I will not stop taking Rachaad White.
Antonio Gibson hasn't been able to stay healthy either, and Brian Robinson we know is a good between the tackles runner. Then that's not a role that J.D. McKissick is going to fill. So there's also weak winning upside in Brian Robinson. Even if he doesn't start, even if you don't see him as a threat to Antonio Gibson, Antonio Gibson's health is a threat to Antonio Gibson, even if Brian Robinson isn't. So,
if I felt more confident about Washington's offense, I think if I felt more confident in that team and I can see the touchdown upside. I mean, any started running back has RB2 upside. I think it's Brian Robinson if something happens to Gibson. Mm-hmm. The worst is if it becomes a full flat out committee and then it's like Miami from last year where, McKissick's getting all the value touches. Robinson and Gibson are fighting for outside the 20s work. And then you're praying that Gibson gets the goal line work. We need Gibson to stay healthy. Just as Hopper said, he can't find himself off the injury report. So it's a good pick from that standpoint. And I think they got him in the third round, fourth round.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it's third. Yeah, it's fine for value, but I need a little more faith in Washington's offense because that touchdown upside is pretty rough. But I have no issue. People want to leave their rookie drafts or want to take Robinson in the third round of their rookie drafts, and I think people should. So
sure. All right, just gonna kind of hit some other names.
We gotta throw in Isaiah Spiller. Matt, I know you don't want to.
No, I'm gonna get to Spiller because Spiller is in a different tier to me with guys like Zamir White. Both guys were well regarded, both fourth round picks, both land similar spots. White behind Drake and White with the question mark that is Kenyon Drake, but behind Josh Jacobs, who's got a year left, and then Spiller lands on the Chargers behind Eckler, but we don't know what's gonna happen with Justin Jackson yet, who's been productive in that, but then you've also had guys like Josh Kelly and Larry Roundtree who have shown a little bit. So can Spiller come in and show more than them? He could end up as a cuff. I don't think is as much of a guarantee as some others, and it's the same thing for White. He could end up as a cuff. I don't think it's as much of a guarantee as some other guys. You also have Hassan Haskins coming in behind Derrick Henry potentially in Tennessee, who's another big bruiser type of back that I really like if for some reason Henry struggles to come back from the foot injury or, in that offense filling that role. That's kind of the next tier of guys you get to are, in my opinion, the Isaiah Spillers, Zamir Whites, Hassan Haskins of the world. That are going to cuff and likely aren't worth anything. I would even argue long-term, absent an injury and getting onto the field that way.
I mean, I agree. I say that I think the same thing about Tyler Algier because he's a 5th-round pick. He can easily be replaced. Damian
but
Pierce
there's
potential.
no with Algier. The difference is there's not somebody there that has that's a proven starter or has a stranglehold on the backfield. Cordero Patterson did it in a pinch and really struggled down the stretch. You don't have a Jacobs or an Austin Eckler in front of Tyler Algier.
I definitely agree with Zamir White. I definitely don't see it's Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake. He is a cuff to both of the backs. And both running backs are going to be free agents next year. Same with Austin Eckler. He's a free agent next year, going to be 28. I'm not advocating the draft Spiller in hopes that he's your long-term answer. But if we're talking about, premier handcuffs, top 5 offense, he's got an all-purpose skill set. He showed that pass catching ability. He's got the size to handle the goal line work. We've seen shitty running backs be productive when they get the opportunity.
Less athletic Royce Freeman, and you won't tell me otherwise.
That's fine. Royce Freeman, if he had a shot, he never did.
And he never did anything with it.
We also hated Devin Singletary, who's also very unathletic and sucks at pass catching.
And guess what? He had 2 fantasy relevant weeks until the end of last year, where he showed he could do a little bit.
That's all we need from Spiller. That's why you're drafting. I'm not saying we're drafting Spiller at the top of the 2nd round. That's stupid.
No.
Stupid.
So, here's a hot take. Give me either guy New England drafted over Isaiah Spiller.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, I do like Kevin Harris.
That
dude is the Justin Ross
Pierre Strong
of running back.
Explosive as shit and went 4 picks after Spiller in New England, who doesn't settle on a back ever.
Yeah,
he may not get a shot.
And Kevin Harris has a injury issue too. Like he can't stay healthy. Like even his pro day, he freaking pulled his hammy.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because he's a good run. Like he was a high recruit too, coming out of high school. I like Kevin Harris, and you will not change my mind.
I like Pierre Strong. I think the dude's a weapon if you can figure out how to get him on the field and make him a weapon. Now the problem is that they're both blocked in whatever role you look at it from.
I think Damian Harris is probably gone next year. They're drafting the replacements to the starters they have now. And they just drafted Ramondre Stevenson last year.
But that's what Harris feels like as a Stevenson
that's so funny to me.
Yeah.
I'm still not giving my love for Zamir White, man.
That's fine.
I like this spot. I still think, this year he sucks. He's definitely a handcuff.
He's just one injury away. I don't think he's. I mean, he may not be productive, but it's the same thing. I know I'm not going to leave my drafts with Spiller, even though I'm going to bat for him, because I'm still not going to draft him above Rashad White or Damian Pierce or James Cook.
Zamir White is worse Sony Michel.
What's that?
Said Zamir White is worse Sony Michel.
I'm not going to argue there.
I just don't see it. The way he ran, the way he could go through that line, and the way he could cut, it's what caught my eye on him. And I became he was I was drafting him in the 1st round of my mock draft.
Yeah, people were drafting Sony Michel in the 1st round of their drafts too.
Mock drafts, but these ones now, he's not going in the 1st. He's more of a 2nd, 3rd round.
People are
he's going where they should be, right?
People are arguing Sony Michel.
That's where we're going for upside picks.
Let's not forget that.
What's that?
Said people are arguing Sony Michel or Nick Chubb. Let's not forget that.
At least Sony Michel actually also gave some weirdly, productive weeks.
Sure, Zamir White can probably do that too if given the opportunity, but anybody can if given volume, right? Didn't we just have that discussion?
That's the whole argument for these guys. Do I expect any of these guys to be long-term answers? Fuck no. But I do want the guys that are at least in good offenses to at least have some touchdown upside if an injury breaks their way.
No running back is a long-term answer. What you're hoping for outside of Hall and Walker is that you catch...
Well, I'm saying one more than 1 year. It's really what I mean by it.
Right. Well, that's profile-wise, I like Beatty to kind of be your James Robinson. And other than that, I like Ingram. Those guys we just spent a lot of time debating, though. And you might catch. See, to me, you might catch. Oh shit! Why can't I think of his name now? Dolphins back.
Myles Gaskin.
Myles Gaskin in a bottle for 1 year.
Yeah, and it can be said for a lot of. It may happen to Kenneth Walker. I don't think it will, but
I don't think it will either.
Yeah, it's one of those teams where it's like it just speaks to how bad the running back class is that we're arguing over, premier handcuffs, which we know is you're just looking for one injury and for them to take off. Like I hope Beatty has a shot.
Yeah,
it's the worst landing spot. He landed in the horrible scheme fit. Like he's such a great all-purpose back, and he lands with the quarterback that won't throw to him, that just doesn't use their running backs that way, and you just have to hope that he can J.K. Dobbins himself into something.
J.K. Dobbins himself. No, I don't want him J.K. Dobbins himself. I want
not get hurt, but I mean Dobbins was also productive his rookie year. That's what we want from him. That's what I mean by that.
Actually, see the field.
I mean Dobbins saw the field his rookie year,
and people
you'll see the field this year. What's that, Ren?
Isaiah Pacheco for Kansas City is like, oh my God, he's gonna be the next, behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's only one injury away.
He's your Darwin Thompson.
That's what I was gonna say. You mean he's Darwin Thompson?
He's agree on something.
He's about the same size too.
He is. He's small. I thought he was small too.
Because you're like, oh my God, here's our chance. I'm like, it's Isaiah Pacheco, man. He ain't gonna do anything.
I think no one's gonna be falling for Darwin Thompson 2.0.
Oh, people are already for falling for Darwin.
Are they really?
Thompson 2.0. Oh yeah, look at Twitter.
Let me pull up his profile. I don't remember his profile.
There's a reason for that.
You're probably right.
Rutgers running back?
There it is. Rutgers. Yeah. Oh, Bo Melton. Where did he land? I know we'll get to him later. Maybe.
Seattle.
That's right. Opportunity. You knew Tyler Lockett with their quarterback of the future next year.
Yeah.
All right. We've beaten running backs to death. Let's do a beer review. And I got to
Okay.
Beer review.
And so I can use the restroom while Dan gives his beer review. I'm going to go ahead and start. I had alt beer from Stubborn German Brewing Company out of Waterloo, Illinois. This is one of my favorite beers. It's definitely not the first time I've had it at all, or the second, or the third, or the 20th. I've had it way more than that. So one of the things that always impresses me about Chris's beers, first and foremost, is when they're supposed to be clear, they're really freaking clear. Nose-wise, kind of a light, classic German maltiness, so it's not all caramel. You get some like toastiness and breadiness to it, but it definitely does have a sweet backbone. You get the same thing on the mouth. It's bitter, and it kind of carries some of that bitterness all the way through. But then behind that, you definitely get some toasty, bready notes with a bit of caramel behind it, and you can also tell that some of the minerality of the water profile. It's not off. Dusseldorf has a very specific water profile. You can adjust a little bit for things like that. And overall, the water profile in this beer carries it nicely. The balance is there. It's incredible. So, again, strongly encourage if any of you are passing through St. Louis to stop in and check them out. Dan, over to you.
Fantastic beer. The alt beer is. Had it during the draft. Wanted to keep drinking it. Left my 4-pack there because
I know this is the last one of your 4-pack that I'm drinking.
Yes. All right. Again, no shocker. Drinking Distill, newly released package for the first time today, as of 9 hours ago. They're West Coast IPA. So as you can tell, based on color, clean, crisp. You can almost see through it all. Unlike your hazies, where everything's super dry hopped and unfiltered. I just truly miss a good, clean West Coast. I love hazies, as much as the next guy, but I'm sick and tired of them. So I'm super pumped to get this out in the market and to be selling it to people. It's our version of Anti-Hero, and you can't go around with it. So, Ryan, you want to give your Old Nation M43 thoughts?
Ooh, M43, Old Nation. Yeah, it's a nice New England style IPA. Little thick, it has a little sediment on the bottom, and that always freaks people out because they're like, they'll see me
just don't drink it.
Whoops. I'll pull the can out, I'll roll it, and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like rolling the sediment out. They're like, what sediment? I'm like, there's sediment at the bottom of this. Like, that's so gross. How do you drink that? So, yeah, it's a little thick of a beer. You drink a couple of these, you're feeling pretty good after a while. Pretty full. But it's good too because it's like, if you're not into IPAs, even IPA fans, like non-IPA fans will even like it. So, because it has like a nice tropical fruit type taste to it too. So, yeah, it's one of my favorite beers, and plus, something I always get all the time.
I do love myself Old Nation. Box Tweed's one of my all-time favorite beers. So, I do enjoy it.
They like M43 now. They have like strawberry, which I haven't tried yet.
Really?
Yeah,
oh man, the strawberry is freaking delicious.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
I get it out here when when it gets released every now and then.
I always get hesitant. I'm like, I don't know if I can do strawberry.
It's so
beer.
good. It's
worth
good.
It? All right,
I mean, yeah.
All right. We're going to go ahead and hit wide receivers. I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm kind of going to rapid fire through these guys. So talk about the opportunity, talk about where they're at, where you draft them. We'll just round table it, try to be quick. Start with Drake London. Drake London lands in Atlanta. He is the 8th overall pick. So quarterback-wise, he'll have Mariota right out of the gate. I'm not talking. There we go. I was, but it was probably really quiet.
It was quiet. Yeah,
okay.
It wasn't too bad, though.
Okay, anyway. For the fact that I forgot to turn my mic on, we're going to go kind of rapid fire through these guys. We'll round table them as we go. Just kind of hit them as we work through what we think about each guy, their landing spot, kind of go over their situation real quick, because this is where the majority of the draft capital landed. This is where the majority of your rookie picks will be spent. So let's start with Drake London. Ryan, I'll rely on you for current ADP. Drake London lands in Atlanta with Marcus Mariota for at least the foreseeable future. Ritter sitting behind him, and the only real target competition he has comes from Kyle Pitts, is Auden Tate and Olamide Zaccheaus, Demir Bird, Chad Hansen, on and on with depth guys and journeymen. Doesn't really pose a threat to his immediate value. To me, the guy's a true alpha. He is my wide receiver one.
See, it's so hard to pick wide receiver one because he was the first one drafted, and it's like looking at the draft capital, yeah, and what they have at quarterback is what kind of makes it hard for me to kind of say yes to have him as 101, because of you don't know what's going to happen with Ritter, you don't know how Mariota is going to get the ball to him. That whole offensive line is still kind of building itself as it's going along. So for Drake London, I'd probably put him as wide receiver 4 right now. And as of right now in drafts, he's going as the 5th pick in 1 QB leagues.
Wide receiver 2, 3?
3.
3,
yeah.
Okay. Dan?
It's him and Burks, 1A, 1B. You can't go around. Both London stepping into a 20% plus target share, 0 competition. He may not be as high-end productive this year, but Atlanta, worst roster in the NFL, top 3 to 5 pick, very, very stacked 23 QB class. Expect that to completely change. They have their outside alpha of the future. Perfect complement to him and Pitts, or just you're going to have Pitts work the team. You can work outside with London. It's hard to not like London's out the gate opportunity compared to the other receivers in this class outside of Treylon Burks. He's almost guaranteed 100 targets. It's that nuts. They're going to be behind. The O-line sucks. You just got to hope that they can be creative with the play calling and not just have him be a boundary guy. They can, do more with him. So it's him and Burks, 1A, 1B. I don't care. Flip a coin. That's where I'm at. And they're in a tier of their own.
All right, Garrett Wilson, 2nd overall pick, round 1, pick 10, lands with the New York Jets. This was my pre-draft wide receiver 2. He was in the same tier as London with me. So he lands really with Corey Davis and Elijah Moore. So a little bit more target volume on a team that also did some things to address the defense and needs their quarterback to take the next step. But I think for a lot of people was the pre-draft one of the most rounded guy coming into this draft. To me, Garrett Wilson does. I don't think he slides down a tier, but I have a little bit more pause about him than I did initially. I think from a prospect standpoint, he was very good, but I do have London over him. And again, it's just because of the lack of target competition right now. And while you have questions about what Atlanta's going to do for the future, you have to question if Zach Wilson's just going to continue the slow progression towards average or if he is going to take a true next step. Also, Elijah Moore.
I think for me, I mean, I debate. He's my 3 or 4. And I know, when we talk Sky Moore, I don't think it's a hot take that he's in the top 5. And I flip back and forth because the main debate is, Garrett Wilson has top 10 draft capital. The Jets spent the entire offseason pounding the table for a receiver. And while I do believe they would have taken London over him if they had the opportunity, Wilson was their number 2. He was their choice. And while, similar style and role of receiver to Elijah Moore, that offense is still set up. If it's not Wilson, it's going to be somebody else because everything's in place. My only concern is going to be what's the target competition going to look like, and are we going to see what type of production are we going to see from him to start off his career? He could be somebody that we pound the table to trade for because he got off to a slow start. Mm-hmm. I'm going to trust my pre-draft evaluation of him. I'm going to trust how I felt about him prior to it and keep him probably in that 3 to 4 spot. 3A, 3B with Sky Moore for me because I still really, really, really like Garrett Wilson. I pause on the Jets. That's my biggest really concern.
Yeah, I see that too, like where it's kind of hard to pause, but you kind of look at it too as if they're working together with Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson is more of a complement player to Elijah Moore to kind of offset the skill set. So it's not like it's 2 good wide receivers competing against each other. It's 2 good receivers who have that initial role on that team that are going to complement each other at the same time. In my view, so actually, I like him as my wide receiver 1
between those 2. But how does he fit with Corey Davis in that offense?
I think Corey Davis will be on the outside. We'll put Elijah Moore in the middle. So it'll be Wilson.
I think they're going to intertwine. I think both Wilson and Moore because they're both really. I mean, they're both undersized, but they both have insanely good releases. They can they can work. I don't know if they're going to worry about press, and that's why they have Corey Davis. They're going to play off the line, or they're going to play in the slot. They're probably universal, probably smarter them to move them around, the formation and try to manufacture some of those touches while also hoping that Zach Wilson can continue his progression. It's target competition. The fact that Wilson was 27th in passing attempts per game last year. The Jets were, I think, 11th in total. So there's clearly room to grow. But as Hopper alluded to, improved defense. You trade up for Breece Hall. It means you're showing some sort of wanting to be a balanced attack when you can. So if this Jets team does improve, you're going to probably see them run more than you want to, especially if they have the lead or if they're in that neutral game script. So I'm interested to see how the offense fully gels together with each other. And the hope is that Zach Wilson can take this step forward and hopefully unlock some of these guys.
Sorry, Ryan, finish your thought.
My bad.
No, that's totally good. It's totally good. I understand. I see where you guys are coming from, but it's Corey Davis is one wide receiver though that can never always stay healthy. So it's if he goes down, you have Garrett Wilson stepping right up. And then they have the nice 1-2 combo, plus all the tight ends they have, plus the offensive line they've rebuilt. It's pretty much setting up the pass game to succeed. Or at least that's what the Jets are looking like, as the pass game to succeed, along with the run game. The run's going to set up that pass.
It's just a matter of can Zach Wilson progress enough to support, multiple 100-target wide receivers.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's going to be the true test. This is the true Zach Wilson test right now.
Yep.
Going into the season.
Similarly, polarizing spot is Chris Olave, another guy that was consensus top 3, tested similar to Wilson, but very different player. Olave almost more of a Michael Thomas type as far as route running and everything goes, and working the middle of the field. So he goes to the same team as Michael Thomas, so he'll be with Michael Thomas and Traquan Smith, with the returning Jameis Winston throwing footballs and, no real eye towards the future there as well. So kind of a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. You take the question marks you have with Wilson about an offense being able to take the next step and target competition from at least one other guy, and combine it with London's concerns, which are what's that offense look like in the future, and you kind of get all the concerns that surround Chris Olave. And to me, he's going to slide down probably to wide receiver 5-ish for me.
All right, you can go ahead and start with this.
Yeah. I mean, sliding down, I could definitely see that for sure. Because, like, we don't know what that offense is going to be, like, with Jameis Winston. Like, is it going to be, are they going to let him sling it? Or is it going to be so, like, run-centric and just kind of, hand the ball off, do short passes? Like, basically what he was doing last year. So it's kind of like a question mark pick. It's like, is it a good win for Jameis Winston? Is it a good position for Chris Olave to succeed now? Basically, like, what are the Saints doing? Because they traded two of their picks. Or they traded their picks with Philadelphia to get an additional first-round pick. So, like, you almost have to wonder, like, are they trying to build with the offense to make it succeed? But if you look at their draft, they built offense first, and then they went defense all after that. So it's like they're almost trying to set up Winston to succeed with Olave. And plus, is there even a true guarantee that Michael Thomas is coming back? If Michael Thomas and Chris Olave are the same exact player, mirror image, in a way, what's that tell us about Michael Thomas in a way?
I don't got 20 pounds on Olave. So like he's significantly bigger than Olave.
More hit resistant over the middle, and I think he keeps Olave outside. But I agree with the sentiment to what you're saying, though, which is, and I think the Saints know it too, that Michael Thomas before this year was on shaky ground, and now he might come back and play a year. But if this rebuild on the fly thing doesn't work out, then Dennis Allen's a sacrificial lamb out of a job. I think what you see right now is what we talked about in the offseason with the Saints, which is one last attempt at corralling some form of offense while that defense is still good before they lose that window, and then you're in full rebuild. I think this is kind of a last gasp at trying to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's why, like, with the loss of Trevor Penning, they went with Trevor, the offensive tackle from Northern Iowa.
Yeah, Trevor Penning. They lost Armstead to Miami. And they drafted Penny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like, they're trying to, like, it's like they're trying to keep, like, that Drew Brees era alive in a way, it seems like, if you look at it that way.
They are.
Where they have the quarterback. It's like, it's trying to keep kicking the can, like, one more year.
Yeah.
My one big concern real quick before we move on. No Sean Payton there. This offense we have no clue what this offense is going to look like. First time they haven't had Sean Payton there since the early 2000s. And this could be one of the worst offenses in the league as well, especially if they lose Michael Thomas. And you have to rely on Chris Olave, who is built to be a 2. He is a through and through wide receiver 2. Yeah. Volume could be great for him in year one if Thomas leaves. I have no faith in the Saints. They have no first round pick next year. They're a bad fucking franchise, and that's gonna hurt the overall ceiling of Olave. And you're just hoping he can have some of that floor. It's just he moved down. He's my 6 or 7. I'm not really sure where, but I feel bad for the guy. It's just the Saints is probably one of the worst landing spots you could have landed in.
Olave is kind of the anti-Garrett Wilson, whereas Wilson and the next guy we're about to talk about might start slow and progress as it goes on. Olave might start fast and then fall off. If we look at other guys as buys after this season, Olave is a guy we could be talking about. Trade him. So Jamison Williams, next guy off the board to the Detroit Lions, who suddenly have a somewhat crowded wide receiver room. With the signing of DJ Chark, you put Williams there next to Amon-Ra St. Brown, with semi-productive Josh Reynolds, Quintez Cephas. I don't think they're going to threaten for starters reps against those other 3. But also similarly, you have T.J. Hawkinson there, and Jared Goff, and we know Goff can support multiple wide receivers. We saw him do it. Ryan, you're the Lions fan. Go ahead on this Williams pick.
Oh, my God. I was so nervous on draft night when they moved up. When they traded up, I'm like, please do not be Malik Willis. Please do not be Malik Willis. And when they pulled the trigger on Jamison Winston, I was so freaking excited.
Aww.
I was like, oh, my God, that line.
I just laughed really loud.
Did you?
Why? I'm sorry. I've talked about this enough. I don't need to rehash my thoughts on the move up.
You laughed because he didn't believe anybody should trade up for a wide receiver. That was
not in this
because
class.
Of the pick, just because it was a trade up.
Yeah, not in this class.
So you don't think it was a spite pick to Aaron Rodgers because he wanted Jamison Williams?
I mean, it's a good pick.
Yeah.
He's a fine receiver. I don't see the reason to give up more capital. I don't agree with Vikings fans that are super pissed about it because, oh my God, you traded with the in-division rival. It's like, who fucking cares? Like, they're going to take him. They're going to find a trade partner for them anyways. Might as well recruit some of the value that we got. So
yeah,
but wax on Williams for a bit because he's got to be number one receiver. So
oh yeah, and he is my number one wide receiver right now. Going for dynasty purposes, not for redraft purposes, like for dynasty purposes on this because. You say it's a crowded wide receiver room, but it's really not. So you have Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Different type.
You have DJ Chark. Huh?
Different type of receiver, St. Brown.
Yes. You have DJ Chark on a 1-year prove-it contract.
Yep.
You have Josh Reynolds on a 2-year, $8 million contract.
Not worried.
And a whole bunch of other wide receivers that are mediocre. So this kind of gives them like the same thing as like a Drake London to Atlanta. It's like a building piece to build on the outside because outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, you don't have any wide receivers.
No, but you have and that's what I was going to say is Hawkins. St. Brown is the one thing that makes us slightly different than the Atlanta spot and some of the year one competition. I don't think Cephas, Reynolds, and Chark are necessarily long for this roster long term, but you have Hawk and Williams, so there's some synergy, and then St. Brown, who's kind of that's the thing that Atlanta doesn't have that I think keeps Williams in tier 2 instead of tier 1 with London.
And I can see that. But I like having the Williams there too because it's just like
different
DJ Chark being on the 1-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't resign him next year, you have Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown on both sides of the field, Hockenson in the middle. That whole offense will open up even more.
Well, and to me, St. Brown needs to play out of the slot with the running ability, the lack of pure athleticism, but the grittiness that he plays with. He needs to play out of the slot and cover the middle with Hockenson. And you get somebody like a DJ Chark or somebody else that can play outside. Williams is more than just a deep threat, though. I think they will be able to slow roll him back a little bit coming off the injury if they need to. But he's explosive. He should be the wide receiver one on this team long term. St. Brown, we knew even last year and after the explosion last year that he was still probably capped with wide receiver 2 type upside, that 2-3 type range where he's going to have solid floor, not a ton of ceiling. So, Jamison Williams is right there kind of with Garrett Wilson for me is, these are future ones on their team and it's not a matter of if, but it's when. St. Brown's a nice compliment in the same way that Elijah Moore's a nice compliment. DJ Chark's a short-term piece that's had some success, a lot like Corey Davis is. So there's a lot of synergies to me between Williams and Wilson, and how they're going to line up. They're my tier 2 guys.
I like Williams, obviously. My biggest fear for him is the speedy outside receiver trope. He'll get typecast into that role.
Better than that,
and that's again that's just building theory on it. It happens almost every time we see this. It's shades of Henry Ruggs. Williams and Ruggs are both fine options. Ruggs got typecast. I don't know if Williams will. But history of the NFL tells us that there's a chance that we could get to that point with them. We're outside of that. It's the offense too, Brian. I know that you're the Lions fan. From what I see and from what I hear is they want to be balanced and run focused. Dan Campbell, old school gritty, want to run the football. You have Jared Goff who can work deep. When he has everything right in place and with the right scheme in place, his most productive downfield years were all with Sean McVay, with good elite receiving options that definitely Williams could become in that mindset. But you have volume concerns. I don't think Williams projects as a 1. He's 6'1", 180. He's 20 pounds lighter than Chase, which I've seen too many comps for. He's not Jamar Chase. I like Williams, but he's not Jamar Chase. He could get off to a slow start. I think as Hopper mentioned earlier, he's going to be missing, I think, some of the important rookie training camps. He should be ready by week 1, maybe. but we've seen how notoriously slow starts can ruin, or how falling behind in your rookie year could ruin, especially for the wide receiver position where the transition is such a hard move from college to the pros. I still like him. I have him behind Sky Moore, but he's my 5. They're in that same tier. Williams is not a target share guy. He's a deep threat guy that maybe you can hopefully turn into more of more of that true usage.
Because the way he played it, he wasn't exactly always a deep threat when he played at Alabama. He'd do slants, he would do post routes. So, he'd cut across the field. So
did Henry Ruggs, and
Henry
Williams
Ruggs
was perceived to run a sub 4.340. That's where
and you can't say that Ruggs was typecast though either, because Ruggs was being used more ways and then it killed someone. So you didn't have a chance.
This is obviously before.
Typecast.
True, but his full rookie year and that's all I'm saying. You're right. He could have he could have been something more. Maybe the Raiders would have thought differently at some point.
I'm going to throw a wrench into that. Let's go with another Alabama wide receiver, though, that was perceived to be a deep threat and then was used near the line of scrimmage all freaking season, and Jalen Waddle.
I hope that Jamison Williams can become Jalen Waddle. I hope that they use him in that way.
I hope he doesn't become Jalen Waddle. I hope he becomes a hybrid between himself and Jalen Waddle, and they use him all over the field because he's talented enough for that.
And I can't wait for them to move on from Goff
the whole season.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think Detroit's going to be actually I call Detroit my dark horse wildcard team this year. Detroit fans, they think they're going to be horrible for whatever reason. But man, that team plays for Dan Campbell. That team was a lot better than their record last year.
They think they're going to be horrible mightily because they're almost always horrible, so they have no expectations. They're going to be pleasantly surprised this year.
Thank God they have 2 first-round picks. They'll probably move up for a quarterback next year.
Got to keep it moving here.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of wide receivers. Jahan Dotson lands with the Commanders. He'll play second fiddle to Terry McLaurin, and not much else in that passing game. But Carson Wentz didn't do a lot to support a passing game his last couple seasons either.
I hate it.
This is a hit on Dotson over where it was being mocked, because he was being mocked to Green Bay. And then he gets selected by the Commanders, who don't have a long-term answer at quarterback. Let's throw some water on that for me. Second to McLaurin. He could end up being better than McLaurin, just based on the prospect pedigree, but McLaurin has done nothing to produce it.
He might be gone next year. He's a free agent after this season.
Which could make Dotson your one, but then with who? So
yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, the Commanders are a lot like Seattle with this ass backwardness and very, very questionable decisions throughout their drafts. So I'm there with you. He kind of feels like, in a way, he's the Kadarius Toney, where people just don't like the spot so much that Dots is starting to fall out of the first round in these drafts. And he ends up becoming, because of where his draft capital was, it's like a guy he's going to be on the field week 1. So there's going to be opportunity there. We hate the landing spot. We hate the quarterbacks he's going to be playing with, but he'll probably luck into some productive weeks.
He's a Curtis Samuel on offense that already has Curtis Samuel.
Well, they're also different players too.
Entirely different
Samuel,
players.
yeah. And Dotson was a Debbie Darling that, just never, I thought he would declare last year, and he didn't, and now
he's a Debbie Darling that produced, and that's kind of the thing with Dotson versus the other Debbie Darlings in this class, is he produced and his combine was decent. So, he's a Debbie Darling that checked boxes, and I think the only box looking back that he doesn't check is the landing spot. He got first-round draft capital. He produced at the college level. He checked every box in my Gate 1 checks, and he performed at the combine, and the only thing you have that's bad right now is a landing spot and no future at quarterback. He could end up being the steal of the draft, especially if people fade him too hard. But I understand why, especially when you get to guys like, Burt, who's coming up, or guys like Christian Watson, who's coming up. But there's definitely some value to be had in the second round, which is why I like this class. And if you fade Dotson to the second round, then I'm actually on board, because you mentioned Terry McLaurin potentially being out. I mentioned Dotson being an overall better prospect than McLaurin was coming in. He could be a future wide receiver 1, and he could be another guy that we're pounding the table to potentially buy low on after year 1, especially if Washington finds themselves in a position to take one of the top quarterbacks next year.
His best player comparable, Tyler Lockett.
There you go. Lockett was another. I think he was he showed flashes, but he didn't really break out until Doug Baldwin left. So
Yep. Unfortunately, Dotson doesn't have Russell Wilson throwing on the football.
Yeah.
Also sucks for him.
Yet.
Yet. When he goes to Denver.
All right, Traylon Burks, next guy up. Dan, go ahead, wax poetic about Traylon Burks, then I'll do my best to throw some water on it. We'll get Ryan's take and move on.
Yeah, he should land into the highest target volume in year one. They move A.J. Brown, which is his ceiling comp, and then immediately with that draft pick, they take Traylon Burks. No Robert Woods. He should start the year on the PUP list at 30 years old, trying to recover from an ACL tear. Absolutely zero target competition. I don't think anyone's really afraid of Austin Hooper or Derrick Henry catching passes enough to take away from Burks. Might have the best quarterback situation outside of Watson and Moore with Ryan Tannehill, who just a couple of years ago showing a lot of flash, was okay in spurts last year, but definitely regress. It's volume for him, and no one's saying that he's going to hit his comp of AJ Brown, but it definitely shows a lot of respect to him that immediately with the pick that Tennessee got in return, they used to draft their replacements, kind of like a Diggs and a Jefferson situation. Likely not going to have the same results, but it feels good, especially with some of these other landing spots for these wide receivers, to where you see an absolutely clear path to opportunity year one.
Yeah, and it's year one versus long term. I like Burks year one. I agree. He could, if he's not. I won't say have the highest target volume, because I think Drake London, given how bad that team's going to be, probably has the highest target volume. I think Burks probably is a lock for 100 targets, though. And I can't say that about anybody else ahead of him other than London. Low volume offense kind of being the difference there. Tennessee still has Derrick Henry. They're still going to run. Defense is still decent. They should, and they play in a bad division, so they should still be, near a low volume offense. And Woods isn't going to be out the whole season. So, but I think Burks is locked for 100 targets. I see more Deebo Samuel than A.J. Brown. I don't see the raw athlete that A.J. Brown is, but, I do see the explosiveness, the creative ways that you can use him. But I also see, looking beyond year one with Tennessee, a team that very, very much could be close to a full rebuild with an aging Derrick Henry coming off of a foot injury, with, Tannehill's future uncertain. You bring in Robert Woods, who's the wrong side of 30. They're only going to be able to ride these older guys for so long. You look at Burks year 2, year 3, it's a window that could be closing, and that's a guy we could be looking at moving on. You just hope that window lines up with his rookie deal somehow, that you can move him before that happens. That keeps him kind of from being top tier for me, is the long-term outlook and just the long-term volume on this offense. I don't think the ceiling with Tennessee is quite as high based on how I draw it up. He's also got to develop a bit on his own, is a true receiver, but the ways they'll use him, the ways they'll scheme for him, the way they'll find ways to get him yak. It doesn't matter if you call it A.J. Brown or Deebo Samuel. Those are the two best yak receivers in the league, and he lines right up with them.
And that's why, it's hard because, we're drawing parallels to the same conversation we had about Brown when he went to Tennessee.
Yep.
This is pre-Tannehill. This is obviously before the breakout truly happened. It happened that year, mid-season. It's I don't see it much different than London. We expect Atlanta to throw more, hopefully. I expect the efficiency to be better from Tannehill's standpoint. And if he fits into more of that yak role, he doesn't need to be used along the boundaries where there's wasted targets potentially. That's why I love both, though. 1A, 1B, because they're both locked for 100 targets. They're both locked for 22 or 20% plus target share. So give me both. Fine, wax ahead. I'm going to run to the bathroom.
I agree with that 100%. That he will easily be a wide receiver who'll be getting over 100 targets, because who else is there to catch the ball with him?
Nobody.
You already said Robert Woods is injured. They drafted Kyle Phillips in the 5th round, which is a slot wide receiver who I like a lot.
Who?
Kyle Phillips.
I haven't watched him.
He's a UCLA. He was very good. But you look at it like he can track the ball. He gets the ball at the high point, gets down, gets to the line, sets back up, goes. So like they know how to you can get the ball to Traylon Burks easily. It's just, our defense is going to be more focused on him and Henry now. That's the only downside I see is because, he played in the SEC, but going against as the number one receiver, how are you going to be able to get the ball to Burks if a lot of defenses start kind of focusing more on him?
I think that you still can, though, right? I mean, San Francisco, everybody knew the ball was going to Debo, and that's where Burks' ability to pick up that yak comes in, the ability to break tackles. I mean, the dude is hard to bring down, and he doesn't go down first hit. He's got that kind of running back vibes about him in that sense. So, and you mentioned the contested ball ability. That's why I don't concern about them keying in because, look, Burks has a true my ball attitude. And he's going to pick up yards. So I don't necessarily worry about defenses keying in too much. He didn't necessarily struggle with press, and he can go up and get it. So, Burks, to me, has one of the safest floors of any of these top-tier guys as far as not busting goes.
Especially year one, because it's hard. I mean, unless he gets hurt or Tannehill just completely tanks, or Burks becomes the kill Harry.
Yeah,
please don't.
I don't think he will.
I know. Thankfully, Tennessee. I won't say that they it cleared all doubt, but when you trade your number one and then draft his replacement right away, it makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. All right.
Plus, you got Malik Willis.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, there's a little bit of insulation there. Okay. Those are all your first rounders. So there were 6 first-round guys. And then a lot of second-round guys, too. Starting off top of the second round, the Packers actually go out and get Aaron Rodgers, a receiver, in Christian Watson. Kind of a tale of two things with Christian Watson. On one side, not very productive in college. On the other side, super explosive. Dude's a playmaker. He's a better version of what they got rid of in MVS and NDSB. But, how does it transition? And, he did dominate smaller school competition. We have seen smaller school guys be successful. But that's, one of the bigger concerns about Watson. It's not the explosiveness. It's not the ability. It's how is he going to adjust to the NFL level compared to some of these other guys.
And he has to worry about it with Christian Watson or with Aaron Rodgers, who notoriously hates these
wide receivers.
He hates Watson, 6'4", 208, hyper athletic, against FCS levels of defensive back. So as Hopper kind of mentioned, how much of that was it just him, Akeem Butler, everybody, or is it actual skill? His best comparable on Player Profiler is Denzel Mims, and that just sends shivers down my spine thinking about Denzel Mims again.
Yeah, it's not a profile that if you follow it is actually produced that well. So
yeah, it's and the fact that Rodgers is 38 years old, he's closer to retiring than they're reaching its peak. So maybe he feels kind of like a trap. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but he kind of feels like a trap to me.
There's explosive upside. I don't necessarily think he's a trap. I think that people are probably going to go apeshit over the landing spot to where it's going to not be one of those we hate player. I don't hate players. I hate ADP type things. Yeah. And some of the other big names that got good landing spots will hold that down and keep that from being egregious. There are a couple guys below him, in the NFL draft that I feel like are safer, but I think that he's got more upside, not as much floor as a Mechie or Pickens given the landing spot. Sky Moore's close. Velus Jones is close.
Oh God, sorry, Bears.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of an enigma because I could certainly see the bust being there, but I don't given the offense and the athleticism, I don't think it will be. It just might be a difficult curve. And the fact that Rodgers is going to throw the football and put his people in a place to succeed, and right now what he has is not a lot.
It's going to be great when Alan Lazard targets him. It's going to be great to see.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm totally down for that.
Look at him.
Yeah, I know you are.
Because he never targets his rookies that much, you know? He's always been more like, every one of your rookies, look at Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, their first year were never like the year that we would expect out of any of them. And then they become the star year 2, year 3. We're like,
but he also had other people there. I mean,
he also had those guys also competing against each other. Yeah, Donald Driver, my favorite Packer,
and he and Adams. I mean, he also had guys there that he could rely on, and this is different. Where his one holdover is Alan Lazard. It's not like you've got Christian Watson coming in and Devontae Adams is still there, and then you draw those synergies like you had with Jordy coming in or Devontae coming in near the back end of Jordy, or Jordy coming in with Jennings coming in on the back end of Driver. This is more, you got to have somebody, and there's not the established veteran dominant alpha receiver there to succession
complement it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping Green Bay sucks this year. Maybe this is the year where Rodgers has a Peyton Manning final season and maybe gets bailed out by their defense because it's still very good.
It'll just be Aaron Jones, wide receiver 1 season.
It's going to be Amari Rodgers
Chris
playing the Randall Cobb role.
Yeah.
I still think Alan Lazard is going to be a great value rookie drafts because people are going to overdraft Watson, and Lazard is going to be there for the taking.
I like Lazard. I've always liked Lazard, though.
So do I.
Wan'Dale Robinson, I don't even want to talk about.
That was too. I was just kind of like, what?
Yeah,
they made so many good moves in the first round, and they follow that up with Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Giants?
Yeah, I laughed at that one.
Like Kadarius Toney and Sterling Shepard, and Wan'Dale Robinson to go in that slot with you.
Yeah,
that's right.
Right there with Kadarius Toney. All right,
3 slot receivers.
John Mechie. Yeah. Mechie's a guy in this draft class I feel like didn't get enough love. You look at, he can go deep, but he works a lot more intermediate. Good route runner, good hands, coming off of an injury. And he lands in a spot in Houston where, they have Brandon Cooks probably in the short term, but, it's a team that's going to be behind that should need a decent amount of volume. I like John Mechie as a guy that's kind of flying under the radar.
Is he going to be ready by week 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Him more so than Williams. Yeah, Mechie will be.
A lot of the same thing. Maybe a slow start, but he has a wide open room to take. I wouldn't be surprised if Cooks is traded this offseason. So, and then just Mechie and Nico Collins.
Yeah.
Cooks just signed that contract, but I know that doesn't mean anything anymore.
Not in today's NFL. It doesn't matter.
Nope.
I don't care how much dead cap I lose. Fuck them.
Not like the Texans don't have dead cap to play with. Or no, their cap situation was pretty shit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They gave all those horrible contracts, like
yeah,
Tunsil and those guys. And Watson's all the dead cap from Watson's move too.
Yep. Yeah, I think Mechie's a guy that flies under the radar, though. He's going to have the opportunity to be, if not the 1, the 2 there, give you some good value, and he's not going to get first-round rookie draft capital put on him. So when you get down to that second round, Mechie, I think, probably has one of the safest floors of these wide receivers that are going to be available or should be available in the second round of your rookie draft. And it's not like he's a slouch either. He does have some big playability. He does have the ability to potentially develop into a true one. It is question marks on the offense, but I just think that Mechie is going to be a very solid player. Maybe not spectacular. He may never be spectacular, but very solid.
Like a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type player.
Yeah.
He feels like a 3.
The type of guys that I value quite a bit.
Yeah. It's Hopper's favorite kind of receiver. It's the undervalued possession receiver. You see appropriately priced Alabama receiver, finally.
Yes.
For God's sakes. Finally we get one of them.
Going at pick 18 right now.
Yeah.
Rookie draft, so that's not a bad value at all.
Nope. Not
That's
at
good.
all. Tyquan Thornton, I'm totally out on.
God, what a horrible fucking pick too.
It's just typical New England. You know, that's what you just
Yeah.
say. Typical New England. They don't know how to draft a wide receiver.
They don't, and they still didn't. And you know, you can look at the draft metrics and salivate, but it did not show up on film. So,
He's
And he's old too, isn't he? Is he like 25 already?
no, that's well,
Or that Velus Jones? That's
It's
that's
Jones.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking
Velus
of.
Jones.
Yeah.
all
Is
right,
it Velas or Velas?
VLUS, I think it's Velus.
it's bust. I
Yeah.
think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, Bus.
Um,
Bus Jones. Aw.
Yeah, that's the easy one.
Sorry,
Yeah, we'll go
Fields.
Bus
You're
Jones.
gonna have to wait till next year.
Yeah, who gives a quarterback the option to pick their player? I mean, come on. Didn't we learn from CEH already?
that's what I said. Like somebody was on Twitter, like trying to defend it. Oh, you're really gonna say it's a bad pick because the player Justin Fields hand selected while watching film with Ryan Poles. I'm like, yes, actually, quarterbacks are notoriously bad talent evaluators. Name one player that's been handpicked by a quarterback that has actually fucking worked out well.
We never hear it because it never fucking
Never
happens.
happens.
Yeah.
Next year. The Bears are setting up next year. Most in salary cap money, and they're gonna have a high draft pick.
Good Lord. George Pickens falls because of off-field concerns. Lands in Pittsburgh. So, solid spot. Solid succession planning. You do still have Deontay Johnson there. Claypool will probably be on the way out. So, there is target competition. He's another guy that you look at and you say, all right, just flash year one. Show me something. Even though you don't expect all the productivity, or at least I don't.
He should be on the field with James Robinson gone. They also took another outside speedster receiver
James
to be the number
Washington?
4 outside. Yeah. Washington
Calvin
left,
Austin.
but they drafted Kelvin
Calvin
Austin,
Austin.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Hopper. He's going to probably for 2023. Deontay Johnson, I don't think he's being re-signed. I don't know if he's going to hold out or not. I found it hilarious that Chase Claypool was the one that announced the pick. You announced your successor,
Oakland.
buddy, because he's a fucking headache to deal with too. He's got his own off the field shit. So I agree with Hopper. As long as he can show us something year one, we're gonna feel great about it.
And keep his nose clean. But
and
he
keep your nose
landed in
clean,
a good
yep.
spot for keeping your nose clean.
No,
Yeah.
but at least
Yeah.
it's a decent foundation in Pittsburgh. Not a great, way of keeping off the field guys off the field problems sane, but at least the organization's more stable than most.
They don't put up with shit, that's for sure.
Alec Pierce, another guy that I like quite a bit. Highly athletic, mostly played out of the slot. Dude can separate though, and actually does show some breakaway. I mean, he's not quick, but he is fast. Goes to the Colts, so good compliment to Pittman, who's more of your over the middle type guy. And if T.Y. Hilton has nothing left in the tank, Alec Pierce immediately slots in as your speedy slot guy to go with the last couple of years of Matt Ryan. Pierce is a guy that I think it's kind of the anti-Pickens, where Pickens, I just want to see it flash. Pierce, if he's going to blow up, needs to blow up year one or year two before the Colts end up in a quarterback situation.
He's a good compliment to Pittman. He's a good
Great
compliment to
Pittman.
Campbell, who should work the slot. I don't know how they're gonna deploy them.
Campbell's got to be healthy first.
Yeah, that too. He lands into outside of Pittman, in a pretty wide open wide receiver room for competition. He could be someone that that shows early flashes.
Well, and that's the other thing with Campbell is he's not established because he hasn't been able to stay on the field.
He's established that he's always on the injury report. Yeah, always hurt. I mean, unfortunately, Matt Ryan doesn't have the same arm that he had, 18,000 years ago. But I'm excited to see what his usage looks like. Maybe he's more than just a downfield threat, the way that the same body type as like Christian Watson. I just hope he doesn't get typecasted.
And hopefully he does something more than what other Colts receivers couldn't do last year, which was go over 500 receiving yards outside of Michael Pittman. Because everyone else was under 500 yards and
And also
really
stay
didn't
healthy.
do anything. Yeah. We're like Alec Pierce kind of like we already said, like I even seen him as a compliment also, but also like a Jordy Nelson type of piece.
Exactly.
The way he can bounce outside, he can catch the ball, he can get it at a high point, he can quickly get off the line, he can run down the sideline, he can tiptoe it in. I mean, he's got the great hands too to grab it.
Actually,
it's something that I like early call.
I want to look into that comp a little bit more.
His best comparable on player profile there is Cody Latimer. He is of the hyper athletic, big outside types. Your Denzel Mims, your Brashad Perrimans of the world, where there's clearly they like him for his speed and his take the top off ability. We'll see what he is at the next level.
Too.
Yeah.
I mean, was that what helped make Desmond Ridder good, or was it did Desmond Ridder make Alec Pierce good?
Probably a little bit of
both,
right?
But I honestly think that Ridder and really that offense being as balanced as it was actually stopped Pierce from having multiple 1,000-yard seasons versus the other way around. So, I think in watching Pierce, if I remember right, he did more than just speed with his separation, and like you said, his ability to go contested catch with the football. It's a great compliment to Pittman, and I think this is a 1-2 of two guys that are probably going to be wide receiver twos going forward.
Yeah.
Oh God, its best comparables are pretty rough though. Latimer, Jalen Straw, and Terrace Marshall, Traquan Smith, Dante Moncrief.
Okay. His college productivity is actually pretty similar to Jordy's too. Except that last year.
I think he had 12 touchdowns too.
He did.
Jordy or Pierce? I thought Pierce had 8 touchdowns last year?
I thought it was more than that.
8 receiving touchdowns. 8. He had 13 total, 8 last year.
Oh, okay. That's the stat I looked at.
Interesting. Okay. All right, keeping it moving past Pierce. Sky Moore. Sky Moore landed in about the perfect place a guy like Sky Moore could have landed.
I love it. I mean, I tell her to Mahomes for the foreseeable future. He's got a bunch of role player, prove it 1-year guys and an aging, Travis Kelce. He's obviously not Tyreek Hill, but you absolutely have to love the insane release ability and how quickly he can create separation off the line. Mm-hmm. And when you get a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who's notoriously aggressive with those type of receivers, sky's the limit.
Plus, he used to play cornerback too.
Quarterback. Yep.
So that's why he's number 24 also. Which a lot of people always ask, like, why is he still number 24? Because he never switched his number when he played corner.
Mm-hmm. He's this year's Jordan Addison. He's this year's Jordan Addison. He got recruited to play defense, switched over to the offense because he's just too good.
Right.
Love Sky Moore. Love this spot.
It's a great spot. Quick receiver, good size, fast slot. Could be fast slot guy, quick enough to play outside. Another receiver room that's just absolutely wide open.
He actually primarily played outside. Listening to a podcast, he was a 30% slot receiver, so he primarily played on the outside too in college.
Yeah. He did a lot of stutter step too, like he'd run out like a quick 5-yard slant, turn around real quick, and be ready for the ball right in his face.
Yeah,
I love those double.
Which is again, it's a lot of Tyreek Hill like stuff where you just get the ball in space and let him go. A lot of catch and run.
Yeah.
Velus Jones to the Bears. There's some people that like the film. Obviously, the age comparison is not good. The production profile is not good. The combine was okay. The landing spot, I mean, outside of Darnell Mooney, there's nothing here. So he's going to get a shot. I don't expect him to be highly. What's his ADP right now, Ryan? Nothing.
I think he's 4th round.
And I think that's fine for a guy that's going to get a shot to see the field. You're not elevating him like you would a younger guy or a better, guy with a better profile that you maybe had a little bit lower. Maybe, like a Calvin Austin had gone here or something like that. You might elevate a little more. But he is a guy that, he's going to see the field, and I think that that alone makes him draftable because there is no depth to this Bears offense. He's
It's
going to
just
get a
so
chance.
hard because, like, when I was like watching him, the only thing I liked about him was his punt and kick return ability. Because the way he could do that right off the bat, his speed right there was like his strength. And it's like, with his age being 25, it's like, is his skill more based on the age? Because, you know, he's been,
Right.
I think it was what, 5 or 6 years.
Super developed. Yeah. 6-year player.
6-year player being in the college offense. So it's like, you have to kind of like throw that into effect too with it. And spending third round capital on it was totally questionable when you have Jalen Tolbert and David Bell still sitting there on the board.
missing
Khalil Shakir, so many good options.
Jalen Tolbert and Khalil Shakir were the reasons that I threw shit. Like, I can do without David Bell, but taking Velus Jones when Tolbert, who's a guy that I'm really, really high on. Like, I like him more than Dotson. I love Tolbert. Yeah, I love Khalil Shakir. And you did this. Awesome. I mean, this is the moment where I decided I am fucking done.
It was rough. I felt bad. I was like, God, Bears, what are you doing? So many options.
So pissed off.
There's punters and kickers getting drafted, but it was Velus Jones that freaking, tipped us all.
Yeah, 2 4th-round punters and a 4th-round kicker go.
I'm all for that.
Well, I know you are for the brand all the way.
Let's talk Jalen Tolbert. First off, he got the draft capital I was hoping for. When I saw, pre-draft, a lot of people had him well below what they had Dotson. So when I decided, I'd like to get one, I liked his film as much as I did. All I wanted to see was day 2 draft capital. He got it. He lands in Dallas, and that gets interesting because he should see the field early. I believe.
He will, because Michael Gallup will be on the
Gallup's going to
start. He'll be in the pup list.
So he's going to see the field early, along with probably either James Washington or Noah Brown. So he is going to see the field early. He will have a chance. It's going to be when Gallup gets back. What does that look like? It's a high-volume passing offense, so I'm willing to bet on it because those things will also work their way out. Either, I'm betting on him to produce when he gets the chance early on, and then you got to figure that one out when Gallup comes back, along with CeeDee Lamb. But, we also did see situations where Cooper could produce with those two on the field. Not last year, but I think year before.
Year 1 of Cooper with Dallas,
year 1 of Cooper with this. So I think that this offense, him landing there, I'm okay with the fact that he landed with CeeDee Lamb, with Michael Gallup, with Dak Prescott, because we know that they're going to try to throw the ball 600 plus times. So the target volume should be there. It's he could easily slot in and pick up what Cooper left, even when all of them are back, and I'm here for that, especially with that profile. 3rd round draft capital, should be able to get him in the 2nd round of your rookie drafts. If he's in that 80 to 90 target range, perfect, because he's also got some ability to stretch.
Best comparables: Adam Thielen, productive. Sidney Rice, very productive for a couple of years. Santonio Holmes,
super productive.
His floor is Josh Reynolds. And his final one, Greg Jennings.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah.
You're on a top 5 passing offense. You have a receiver that can both play in and out. I'm really interested to see when all 3 are healthy, who's playing on the outside. Because I think Lamb can do far more than just play inside. I would love to see him move outside and be have him take over the true Cooper role. And then we'll see what they do with Tolbert. They play him inside to start out his career. But with Michael Gallup probably on the pup list out 6 weeks to start the year, I don't believe in James Washington. I don't believe in Noah Brown, which I'm pretty shocked he's still in the league. So good for him. But Tolbert slides in what I think is a sneaky good spot. I think he could be in line for a 70 target season and put himself up there in that, hopefully in that 600 plus receiving yard range. I think there's upside to this offense. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts on this Tolbert spot?
I like the landing spot actually because you lost Cedric Wilson, free agency to the Miami Dolphins. So you had a true need here of trying to get a receiver with Michael Gallup also being on the PUP list and being injured. So, yeah, totally agree. I don't know if I could see 700 yards. I could see 500 yards kind of being his ceiling because you still have Dalton Schultz there. You still have Zeke Elliott. You still have Tony Pollard. You still have another powerful offense all around him. So I could see it like him being more of like a wide receiver 4, basically to start out his career. So he'd just be more of a bench depth piece and like maybe a bye week filler for this year.
I think if he's top 36, we're super happy. And he may go along the lines of like a Chris Godwin type of trajectory where he just has to earn his spots and wait out for Gallup to either lead the team or a guy like even CeeDee Lamb could leave at some point. So there might be a time where he just has to wait out these guys ahead of him. But there's very clear upside to Tolbert.
I heard a yardage discussion, and I'm just going to plant my flag on the 700 being his floor. Or being his ceiling.
That'd be pretty awesome.
I'm gonna go right there with.
I love your aggression with it. I absolutely
the 700 to 800 yard range because I look at what Cooper did last year, and the feeling on it wasn't good. And with Gallup healthy, that's essentially the guy that you're bringing him in to replace. And even with the season Schultz had, Gallup got hurt late. Cooper was 68 receptions, 104 targets, 865 yards, and Tolbert's a little more explosive. So, I think. Seeing him in that 80 to 90 target range, the 700 to 850 yard range is very doable, and I think that you're very happy with that as year one performance for a guy you're going to get in the second round.
What was Cedric Wilson's stats, though?
So Cedric Wilson didn't really
for last year
on the field until injuries happened, and he was 602, 61 targets, 45 receptions. 602 yards, only started 4 games, though.
All right.
We're going to pivot. We got a question that could have a lot of conversation to it. So,
good.
And we got a guest on. Greg wants to know. So, Greg has the 207 and the 210 in a 14-team super flex league, doing his rookie draft, obviously, right now. Best players available. David Bell, Alec Pierce, we just talked about, Wan'Dale Robinson, Brian Robinson, Tyler Algier, and Matt Corral. He's got 2 picks in this 4-pick range. David Bell, Alex Pierce, Wan'Dale Robinson, Brian Robinson, Tyler Algier, and Matt Corral. What are you guys' thoughts? Who should Greg take?
All right, so I'm just gonna throw the guys that I wouldn't take out there first. I'm gonna throw Wan'Dale out.
Yeah, I wouldn't take Wan'Dale. Second that.
I wouldn't take Wan'Dale. Pierce is still in, Robinson's still in, Algier's in, Corral's in because it's super flex in a 14-team league. I don't like Bell's athletic profile. I get that a lot of people, think he could be cut from the Landry mold, but we haven't gotten to him yet, but he landed in Cleveland. It's an offense that does have opportunity, but does also want to be run first. And, even if he gets the Landry role right, how much do you like that? You have Cooper there, but Landry didn't exactly put up great numbers. LaFleur was fine. He didn't put up great numbers. So for me, I'm out on Bell. Are you guys same way there?
I'm pretty clear cut with who I take with these 2 picks. I'll be the soapbox for Bell, but I think the answer is pretty clear for me.
Yeah, I think for me it is 2. I think we might differ on one guy, but I think for me it is 2.
How do you feel, Ryan? Where are you? You're the guest. Why don't you give your...
What was the pick he had again?
All right, so he has the 207 and the 210.
It's a 14-team super flags.
Yeah.
207 and 210.
So you have pick 22 and 26. 21, 25 maybe.
It's almost like you almost got to look at his team, see how it's being built. His weakness of that quarterback. These are quite questions that I always find hard to answer because people are why would you do that? I'm like, well, how do you know what their team looks like?
Well,
based on the context of what we have.
Yeah, the context of the league size and in a vacuum. So if you're doing this as like a mock draft where you don't really have a team, you're just looking at drafting it.
I would be right now with kind of what I know and the way I feel right now, at 207, I'd go running back. and I go Tyler Algier there. Just knowing, kind of have an idea of what we know right now, and it's so hard to tell between now when you're drafting and week 1.
You're drafting best player available at this point. We are so far out from the league to start. So many injuries, so many trades. You can fix your roster after the draft.
And I always feel going like best player available here is always going after the running back. Because like if you don't know, but you have an idea with the running back, I always lean more towards the running back because their value seems to hold better and longer and faster.
It grows rapidly. I mean, if Tyler Algier is one of the answers.
Tyler Algier is one of the answers.
It's one of the answers.
And I'm with you there as well. I mean, you have the opportunity there. It's a 14-team league, so there's that extra depth that makes it harder to find running backs that are going to be valuable. He's in a great spot where you have questions of the passing game, and the questionable passing game's best friend is a good running game. So I do think there's a chance he's the starter there and getting the majority of the carries by the end of the year. Who's the other guy for you, Dan?
Matt Corral.
It's Corral.
You got it. It's still super flex quarterback, and Corral's going to get a point to play this year. It's you flip them. I say you flip Algier when he blows up because I don't think he has any long-term value, and you flip Matt Corral when he blows up, and you collect on the value gain, especially for a team that's not competing. You're going to get value from both of them. So those would be my 2 picks.
So I'm going to go another way here, and I'm going to say that Pierce is my other guy, and it's because I feel like you have to get some of this tier 2, tier 3, round 2 wide receiver depth in this class, especially if you're looking for a piece that you're going to keep around on your roster long term that you're not drafting to flip. I get it super flex, but the bust potential on Corral is 100% there. So with 2 picks here, I want to leave feeling like I got some value to my team. So if I'm drafting Algier, and in my mind I'm in kind of a quasi-rebuild, if I'm drafting Algier to be a guy that I'm looking at flipping when they blow up, I'm drafting Pierce to be a guy that I'm looking at holding on to as a second-round value that I can keep a hold of that I'm pretty sure is not going to be a total miss.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly who I would go with, too. And for the same exact reason, because it's just a building piece, because you don't know, like, okay, yeah, Sam Howell might get that opportunity to play, but how many points is he going to give you, and is he going to stay?
Or
it's like
Corral.
You're taking a dart throw. Yeah. You're taking more of a
It's
dart
Matt
throw
Corral, not Sam Howell. So.
Oh, yeah. All right, Matt Corral. I'm sorry.
Is it that much different? I mean,
yeah.
I think all these guys have a high chance to bust. Like Alec Pierce, just noodle arm Matt Ryan. I mean, he got decent draft capital, but I mean, maybe.
There's a point.
I'm going for the higher. I'm just going for the value at this point. And I do lean David Bell because I'm also a David Bell truther. I'm not going to hide it, but it's similar opportunity to Pierce too. They just play different roles. So if you're going for that type of weight, it's they're interchangeable for me, one and the same. If we're going for potential long term, one's actually tethered to Deshaun Watson, and the other one's tethered to Matt Ryan.
One is tethered to actual like athletic profiles that line up with NFL productivity, and the other one.
I mean, Jarvis Landry was a very productive receiver, and same with Anquan Bolden, his best comparable player. So you don't need to be athletic to play in the slot, which is where he's going to be. So, I mean, again, I'm not drafting those two because they both have I do see bust opportunity for both of them. I'll take Matt Corral, and if he starts, I'm going to flip him because you're automatically going to get your value in return in a better draft class next year. Because somebody's going to be a Matt Corral truther. They're out there, Hopper. I know it's rare.
Never does,
we're not one. We both hate them. So,
and if he never does, you wasted that pick. So
yeah.
Or you hold on to him too, because maybe he is something. Maybe he hits his ceiling. So, but
you take that like say he takes Tyler Algier and some offer some 23 second right now. Do you do that?
Take it
for the next right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like
absolutely right. You're right. And he'll probably play and start at some point this year, if not week 1.
Right.
And as soon as he goes for, 100 yards in a tutty, you can trade him. Or if you're a championship team, then you just ride the points that year.
Well, the good news about this is we just got to talk about David Bell, who would have been the next guy we talk about anyway. So we can skip right over
I think he's the next guy up, isn't he?
Yeah, that's why I said we can skip right over that. We just got to talk about him.
That's funny. I love it.
Okay, this is the part where we're just going to get to guys that you might want to get to that are left over that were drafted. For me, the guy I want to get to is Khalil Shakir. Buffalo, 5th round draft capital. There is a path to productivity, especially for him who profiles as a pure slot receiver. He's going to start camp blocked out by Jamison Crowder. Crowder has dealt with some health issues the last couple of years. If he can stay healthy through camp, we'll probably break camp with this team. If for some reason he does not, Shakir fits that role very, very nicely, along with Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. And I don't expect Crowder to be – he's on a 1-year deal, I think.
Yes.
Effectively.
Yes.
So I don't expect Crowder to be here beyond this year. I think McKenzie signed a 2-year deal too. So the other guy that
very low salary too.
Yeah, that would be in consideration for slot work. So Shakir at some point is going to get relatively consistent slot work on this team, and it's a high volume team. It's a good offense. So I'm completely here for it. Is another guy you can get with relatively good draft capital. Ryan, who's a guy we haven't talked about yet that you want to throw some shine on?
Kyle Phillips. You and I kind of talked about it when Dan was away.
Mm-hmm.
As like one of the, he was who's UCLA's coach? It's like hitting me. I'm having like a freaking brain fart on it right now. But,
looks like a model,
dude. Like
this dude's pretty as shit. Looks like an Abercrombie and Fitch model, except slightly smaller.
God, it's blanking me right now. What the heck was the coach's name? Philadelphia Eagles old head coach?
Doug Peterson?
Chip Kelly?
No.
Chip Kelly?
Chip Kelly. Yes, Chip Kelly. That's the one. So Chip Kelly actually recruited this kid to UCLA. And when I was watching, I saw basically one of the best not wide receivers, but the best slot receiver for slot receivers. He was great route runner, 40 speed that you can get excited about, which is 4.58. But his initial takeoff, 10 to 20 yard time, was 1.49 and 2.57. So that initial takeoff to get and go was there, and you can see it in his tape too if you ever get a chance to get to watch it. And he also held a 31% target share and 38% college dominator rating per player profile, which I know you love, Dan.
We both.
Yeah, we're very pro player profile here,
right? And I kind of saw basically when I was watching that more, comparing it was more like a Julian Edelman type player.
He definitely has, and he's got the opportunity playing in Tennessee, right? We talked about them a bunch with the Burks part of it, but again, Woods probably on the pup list, old. You have Westbrook there. There's a good chance for him
to actually make it on the field,
to work it onto the field, and if he's a special teams guy, obviously helps even more so. So there is some opportunity for him in that pretty wide open room outside of Burks and Woods.
I'd like to argue with you about him being pretty, though. He looked pretty in the small picture, and then you click on it and blow it up, and it just looks like Hunter Renfrow without the receding hairline.
Does look like Hunter Renfrow back when when Renfrow was in the 60s when he was still 20 years old.
Yeah, back before the receding hairline.
I love it. He does. He's yeah. I do see a lot of Hunter Renfrow in his face. When he has pretty. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, that's one thing. But I could see he's one of those late 4th round dart throws you have. It's you're at the end of your draft. You don't know who else to grab. Bull Mountain's gone. You kind of just take him out.
All right, Dan, go ahead.
Bo Melton.
Poetic about Bo Melton.
I love it. I mean, we're talking about also landing spot being absolutely fantastic. Goes to Seattle. Best comparable player is Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett could be off the team by next year. Hopefully a whole new a passing crew there, a whole new quarterback, hopefully for a whole new coaching staff. Melton's the guy, just like with Kyle Phillips. Shakir probably goes around before these guys, but I want both. If I can get one of my dart throw running backs, these are the guys I want to take. There's chance for opportunity this year, for Melton, and I want to get on top of that. Obviously, great athletic profile. You don't love the 7th round pick, but again, you're looking at the 4th and 5th round dart throw guys. He is definitely one you need to circle on your list. just given the opportunity that he could see this year. And yeah, I want to double back to Khalil Shakir. I cannot wait for him to outproduce Gabe Davis this year.
Oh, the Gabe Davis hype so freaking ridiculous.
I got into a huge argument with a bunch of Gabe Davis truthers yesterday, and I actually like Gabe Davis.
I'm a Gabe Davis truther, but not
you're a realistic Gabe Davis truther. These motherfuckers I had to get into battle with Josh Larkey, no less, on my side. It was just the love for him, man. It's just you have one blow up game.
He's not a 1.
He's really never going to be a 1. He's going to be the touchdown upside will carry him to a 2. And that's where he's going to be. And some weeks it's not going to be huge, and other weeks it's going to be great. But
yeah, I love Khalil Shakir, and I love Bo Melton, and I'm intrigued by Kyle Phillips. Landing spot definitely, but yeah, I'm glad we were going to hit on those guys because we always talk about them. So
it was funny too because I had Bo Melton as like one of my like dark horse wide receiver sleepers. I said who could go as high as picks as round 3 or as low as round 6.
I can't believe he got round 7. I was shocked by that.
And I had the same comparison. You know, you got yourself like either Tyler Lockett or you have Donovan Peoples-Jones. You know, someone who's overly athletic, but you know, being held in a Big Ten offense gets held back a little bit.
Playing with Rutgers really hurt him. He was like, he's this year's DJ Moore, just aggressively held back by his offense.
You have a Rutgers quarterback who can't even throw for 1,800 passing yards. I mean, come on. It's like a standard offense there.
Shades of Moore. Is that it, Hopper? Or no, we have to talk about tight ends, don't we?
Do we have to?
Do we have? I don't scout. All right, perfect.
We're done.
Ryan.
I mean, overall, this tight end class was what? Trey McBride and then everyone else?
At least McBride landed in a okay spot behind Zach Ertz.
Yeah. Tight ends, we really should just skip talking about as rookies and start talking about them after year 2.
Yeah, I think,
year 3, year 4 for some of them.
Well, that's why. I mean, rookies, not everyone hits year 1, so you're talking about them 2 or 3 years in advance. So you talk about tight ends after year 2, and you're probably in about the same realm.
Yep.
That's the show. Ryan, thank you. Where can people find you? Let them know all your stuff.
You can find me on Twitter at RyanMiner_FFB. You can find all my work on Faceoff Sports Network at fffaceoff.com. I do rookie mock drafts. You guys want to get on any sleeper mock drafts with me? Look me up as Ryan Miner FFB. Friend me. I'll send you invites daily. We'll keep these mock drafts running.
And I am at Beerfield Hop with 2 P's. You can also find us on fffaceoff.com and under the Beerfield Podcast, wherever you get your podcast content, and Beerfield Podcast on YouTube. Dan is Beerfield 30. Anything else, Dan?
That is me.
Okay, great. See ya.
Bye.